This is going to be an epic night. Folks, my name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Welcome back to another session of Chattin on the Porch. And don't get me wrong, I love every guest that I bring on here, but this one I am like stoked and super excited about, and I will explain why momentarily. We're going to give everybody a second or two to filter into the room, and y'all been tweeting it around and gittering it around and truth socialing it around and everywhere you guys are on social media. Fedora Nation is pumped for this one tonight. This is going to be an epic collaboration, or at least that's what my fellow content creator Mike Harlow called it. So yeah, we're going to have a whole lot of fun tonight. I have been dying to get this lady on the electronic front porch for the longest time now, and circumstances were such, and I'm not blaming, no one's at fault in here, so don't anybody like, no one's at fault. It didn't work out for whatever reason, okay? But now it finally has. Now, my channel may be relatively new, but you will find out if you hang around me long enough, I have a true appreciation for the written word. I love good writers, and this goes back to when I was a teenage kid. And the lady that I'm about to bring on is probably one of the best writers coming or going in this day and age in which we find ourselves. I could sit here and give a whole bunch of platitudes, but I'm just going to give a quick brief bio because I really want to dive into a conversation with this person. She is formerly of ABC Radio and Premier Radio Network. She's written for Front Page Magazine and New Real Blog. Her current home is PJ Media, where she not only writes a regular column, but she's also the host of the Fringe podcast. Aside from efforts on behalf of other people in media, she is herself a content creator. She is any number of different things and also a published author. She is the author of 2 different books. One of them is called Believe Evidence, The Death of Due Process from Salome to Me Too. And the other, which I find very humorous, Shut Up, The Bizarre War That One Public Library Waged Against the First Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, without much further ado, may I bring you the indispensable Megan Fox. Megan Fox, welcome to the Electronic Front Porch.
What an intro. I'm going to have to clip that and use it.
Oh, feel free. I tell my guests all the time that, my channel may be small. We're relatively new. I've got a tin can and string operation here. But when I bring somebody on, I will guarantee them at least one thing for sure. They're going to get the best stem winder intro they've ever had in their entire life, or else, I'll give them their Fig Newtons back. Whatever I paid them in Fig Newtons, they're getting a refund on it. Or whatever. We'll figure out something here. How are you, dear?
I'm good. I'm recovering from my second bout of COVID since 2020. I only had it one time in 2020, which should show you that natural immunity is really pretty good, because I haven't had it again it's been 3 years. I got it while traveling. It's been wicked. I can tell you, it's been wicked. Recovery has sucked. But I'm getting there. I may have to mute myself a little bit to cover the coughing. But other than that, the residual cough is really the only thing that's left, and being tired. But other than that, I'm good. My life is weird right now. I don't write. I don't really know what to do with myself anymore, because I'm not writing because of a physical injury. And it's weird. I have a pinched nerve, and I had to take some real time off, and consider changing my life. Changing my lifestyle. Sitting and typing is destroying my spine.
Oh.
So that's unfortunate. And so when I think about writing these days, I actually have like a physical reaction where I think, no, I can't. I'm scared. I'm scared to sit down and do the typing because I lived in pain for like 6 months with this thing, and finally figured out how to solve it, which is to get up and stop sitting and walk. So I've taken on a new adventure, or a new old adventure, because I used to wait tables years ago. And I decided, well, I can walk and make money at the same time if I just go to a restaurant and bring people food all day. So that's what I have been doing. I'm like journalist turned waitress, which sounds like a great plot for a movie, to tell you the truth.
Well, considering that you and I have both suffered at the hands of our mutual friend Mike Harlow by watching And Just Like That, believe me, if somebody made a TV show or a movie about your adventures in waitressing versus
Hmm.
what we've been forced to have our eyes gouged out over, it would probably be a far better
Oh, it
alternative,
would be
I
way
assure
better,
you.
I guarantee you.
Oh,
Mm.
well, you looks like
Ruben
you.
Ruben in the chat says record and auto transcribe. Now I've tried that. I before I gave up totally and was like, I just need to take several months off and just recover. I tried doing that. And for me, the technology is just not there. The grammar is
Mhm.
so frustrating. It doesn't do proper grammar. And so you have to still sit down and edit for an hour and put in all your commas and your quotation marks. And my brain, the brain of a writer is an interesting thing. Writing is an art form, and you must have the proper surroundings and mindset. And my writing comes through my fingers. It doesn't come out of my mouth. I know I do a lot of talking and I do a lot of streaming and I do a lot of, interacting with people and I can talk all day long. It is not the same process as writing.
No, absolutely not.
It's actually it's slower in one sense and then much faster once it starts to flow. So it never starts to flow when I'm speaking, and it's really tough. I know some people do it, but so far I haven't been able to figure it out.
Two things. There's an old program that a friend of mine, and this was 20 years ago, and it's probably gone through better versions since then. It's called Dragon Speak. Literally,
Yeah.
you're talking into a microphone, and maybe that's what Ruben is referring to, quite possibly. But a friend of mine just swore by it. She loved it because she's like, I want to put my thoughts down, I want to write, but I don't want to take the time to type because if I remember correctly, she had some various physical ailments in her hands, but she found it to be just a fabulous program to use, and that was years ago. So
No,
probably,
I'm hearing that the Dragon Speak is really good. I just didn't have the budget to invest in it
sure.
without knowing. Um, it's pretty expensive, and I'm facing some financial difficulties because of
Mm,
the big tech crackdown on me, on my writing, on PJ media in general, on conservative media. I'll tell you, I don't mind telling people this, but my salary was cut in half last year because Facebook, which my salary was very small to begin
right.
with. It was, my husband's the main breadwinner. I was bringing in extra money. And that extra money was like I don't know, like your first job out of college kind of money. It wasn't a lot, but it was cut in half because Facebook started demonetizing our articles on PJ Media if they mentioned any of the things that go against the narrative. So, for instance, anything I wrote about COVID was demonetized. Anything I wrote about Anthony Fauci was demonetized. Anything, and that means, and we rely on advertisers. That's how we get paid. We don't get paid we get paid sometimes through subscribers. We have a VIP subscription service on PG Media. And by the way, you can use my promo code FOX, FOX, for a discount if you want to sign up for the VIP articles. Um, but mostly we get paid per clicks through Google because of the ads. Well, when Facebook demonetizes you, basically so does Google. And our earnings and our hit counts were cut in half. In half. And my paycheck went from, I don't know, I was on track to make maybe, it's not much, but like I'll just tell you, maybe 36,000, which was really good for me at that point.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, I'm like getting to a point where it's a real job, after 20 years of doing this, to less than half of that. And where it became, wow, now this is costing me money because I work all day long. This is not a job where you work a couple hours and then go about your life. Investigative journalism is a 24-hour job. I
Yep.
take phone calls at all hours of the night. I get people, whistleblowers calling me. I am on call all the time. I am researching. If when I am not writing, I am researching. I'm calling people on, at random times. I work weekends. This is not a
Sure.
job that you can do for nothing, or less than nothing. And so it already had been getting signs and writing on the wall that this was going to be tough. And so then I started doing more streaming to try and make up for the hit. I mean, I'm just doing everything I can. And my channel grew from 4,000 subscribers to almost 20,000 in 1 year.
Wow.
And it was because of the Johnny Depp trial and the coverage that I did there. And it exploded. And actually before that, the And Just Like That coverage really got me a bunch of new subscribers. Then that went into the Johnny Depp trial, which really exploded it. And then Nick Rekieta picked me up, and it just went crazy from there. And it just went like on a straight up arrow. But just when that was starting to take off and starting to pay off, YouTube demonetized my entire channel. Now, I've been a partner at YouTube for many years, almost 10. I've had that YouTube channel for a very long time. And I was monetized a long time ago. I hit 1,000 subscribers on my own just doing boring board meeting coverage. And although it's not boring to me, I'm a nerd and I like board meetings, but it was incredible. It's like the dominoes are just stacked against you almost. And every time something started to work, it just got knocked down again. And YouTube now, not just a video was demonetized, and my entire channel with 3 different explanations. And actually, you're taking a risk by even having me on your channel. Every time I go on someone's channel lately, the stream gets demonetized. And it's weird because I'm not very controversial. I'm a mom. I talk about protecting children. I do talk about the TQ plus nonsense that is destroying the bodies of children and destroying reality as we know it. But I'm very pro LGB. I have no problem with the LGBs and some Ts, I say, because some Ts who are friends of mine are on my side on this. They think this transing of kids is crazy. And if you, and I started, I think what did it was that it was June, and I had basically declared war on Pride Month because I called it Cringe Month. I called it Cringe Month, and I was mocking Pride Month. And it was funny as hell. I had Mike Harlow on. We did an entire stream with Mike Harlow, Flux, who is my friend who's a streamer who's a lesbian, and Sarah Higdon, who is a trans person, who is also super based. And we did like a Pride Month Jeopardy that was just ridiculously funny. You should go check it out. It's still on Rumble. I had to take it off YouTube, unfortunately. We did a hilarious roasting of Pride Month during June. And shortly after that, and some of my short videos that I was doing, the entire channel got demonetized. So you cannot have a differing view on Pride Month that goes against the narrative. If you don't agree with Dylan Mulvaney's horrific caricature of women, and if you say it on any of these big platforms, you're going to be silenced. And that's what happened. And so my channel is now not making, I can't get any super chats. I can't take super stickers. I have no memberships anymore. And I was growing my memberships. And they gave me 3 different answers. The first one was harassment and bullying, but they would not say who I harassed or who I bullied. And they wouldn't even point to the videos that they believed were harassing and bullying. And there wasn't one video on my channel that had been demonetized without being remonetized, because I fought it and I won. So every video on my channel, YouTube declared safe for advertisers, yet they demonetized my entire channel. The second excuse I got from another YouTube representative
Flunky
was, what was the second one? I'm trying to think what exactly it was. I published it all on Twitter. One was harassment and bullying. Shocking content. And I deleted a bunch of videos that I thought might have done it. There was one of that. Remember that trans person who took her tatas out at the White House?
Yeah, I remember that one.
I played a video of that was blurred out, and I mocked it, and I berated that person without ever mentioning that person's name. But I don't think I ever called that person a she, because I don't think somebody who behaves that way should get their should get their pronouns. So I think I called him a he
Mm-hmm.
because it was, correct. It's true. And I was told that, they never allow misgendering. Of course, I've been misgendering people on YouTube forever. I mean, I just refuse to lie. I don't think other people can make me lie. That's not something I believe in. And so that one I deleted just to see, like, would it make a difference? Then the third explanation I got from them was, oh God, am I even going to remember this? So harassment and bullying, shocking content. No, I don't even remember the third one. I don't recall right now, but it was a totally different answer with no explanation. So,
And
I
there, and
don't
there's
even know what I can do.
yeah, and the thing that I'm discovering from talking with other content creators, and not that I've run into what you've run into, is there's no one you can pick up the phone and go,
Mm-mm.
"Hey, can we have a conversation here?" It's like this great nebulous, it's almost demigod like out there in the ether. That's like, I bow to the YouTube Google overlord. Please tell me what I'm doing wrong. Please tell me what I'm doing
And they
right.
won't.
Yeah, they won't. They refuse to
I
do so.
told them flat out, I will do whatever you tell me to do to get my monetization back.
Hmm.
And I'll play by your rules, even though I don't agree with any of them because I still have Rumble and I have locals.
Sure.
So I'll do an hour on YouTube and I won't talk about your stupid topics. And then I'll drive everyone to Rumble. I don't care. So Chris Rowland just got it. He was right. It was hate speech. The third one was hate speech. They accused me of hate speech, but of course they won't tell you what speech you made that was hateful. And of course, as we all know, there's no such thing as hate speech. Free speech is hate speech. Hate speech is free speech. And if I were to make any hate speech, which I don't think I did, because I didn't even mention names, I just said this type of behavior is unacceptable, and I think I have the right to think that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and absolutely you do. Absolutely.
you
I
know,
mean, it amazed. I mean, I remember years ago when the whole hate crimes movement got started. And I said then, I was like, fellas, this is, and I was working for an online, not working, volunteering for a startup online newspaper, doing a little writing on the side. And I said, this has got to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, crime at its heart is an act of hate because you're willing
hmm hmm
to set aside love and
hmm
tolerance in order to engage in a behavior that is in violation of law. Why don't we just say, okay, Matthew Shepard was murdered? Oh no, Matthew Shepard was a hate crime. No, he was murdered. Well, he's murdered because he's gay. I'm like, no,
no, it was a drug deal gone wrong.
yes, a drug deal gone wrong, and he's a human being murdered by another
hmm
human being. Why
hmm
don't we just call it what it is? It's a crime.
It's a crime.
Hate, hate is automatically at the basis of the action.
It's true.
You
It's
know, and the
exactly
same
true.
same thing goes with speech. But I mean, you just there. Believe me, this whole thing about internet censorship is just one of those bees in my hat among other topics. But for people who are watching this tonight, and I was trying to do as much research as I could to get ready for this. And there were two things that I discovered which lead to my next question. At one point in one of your columns, you stated your age, which I'm not going to be so gauchious to tell everybody what it is.
No, it's okay. I'm
But
47. It's fine. It's totally out there.
well, there went that. Got it. Okay, now. Okay. But you said you've been writing for 20 years, so it sounds like when you came out of college, you
hmm
were not either. You hadn't started the path on the journalistic career you've got.
Mm-mm.
So for people who don't know your backstory, and I'll admit there are parts of it I don't know, where did you grow up? What got you into what you went to college for,
hmm
and what started you on the path of being the writer that you are today?
Well, so I grew up outside of Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, Southwest side, and
Okay.
I was born and raised there. Went to school there. Did private school, private Christian school, and then my last 2 years of high school, I went to public school. So I've kind of had the wide range of schooling. And then I was very into theater, and especially musical theater. I'm a singer, and
Okay.
I was offered a scholarship to Roosevelt University in Chicago for theater, and it was a full ride. And I was very excited about it. And I told my dad about it, and he was adamant that I was not going to go. And he said, "You're not going to a fruit school. I don't care what they offered you. You're not going to, you're going to go to college. You're going to go to
A
real
fruit
fruit
school?
school." And I was like, "But Dad,
Okay.
I'm a fruit. You're trying to send a pineapple to a hammer school, and I'm not a hammer. I'm a pineapple." Like but he didn't, he was determined that I was going to go to college. And I understand now as a parent, why he thought that. He was just scared, anxious, worried
Sure.
that I would never be anything and I would never make any money and I'd be living off of him forever. That was what he was worried about. And so he said no, I had to turn it down. And of course, when you're 18 and you do what your dad says, and I did. I turned it down, and I went to Arizona State University, where I promptly partied my way right out of there because I wasn't going to class. I had no interest in any of it. I went to all my theater classes. I went to my dance classes, but I totally ignored psychology. I didn't go to biology. I think I went once. I also made the mistake of choosing some 8 o'clock classes, which I slept through every single one. And I was in Arizona, and every day in Arizona, coming from Chicago, where the weather is so terrible at every time of the year, every day is a Ferris Bueller day in the school during the school year. And I was 18 and stupid, and I would look at the sky and be like, "Oh, well, I can't go to school today. I'm going to the pool. But that's where I'm going, is the pool." I think I had a 1.7 GPA.
That made for a very interesting winter break conversation with your father, no doubt.
Oh, well, they never called him until it was too late and they were kicking me out.
Yeah, okay, then the conversation really got interesting.
But he had a heart attack, and that was before he found out about this. So it wasn't my fault that he had the heart attack.
Oh, okay. All right.
But he had a heart attack right before that happened, and I went home to see him, and I dropped out. I went to the office and I said, "That's it. I'm out of here. My dad is sick. I'm not doing well anyway, so I'm out." And I dropped out and I went home, and he was okay. I mean, he recovered. But I remember sitting around the pool at his house, again, me and the pool. We cannot be separated. In fact, I could have majored in sunning yourself. That I'm very good at that. I am an expert level sun tanner, sun worshiper. So if you have any questions about that, I'm great at that. So anyway, I'm laying around by my dad's pool after he got out of the hospital. I've been there for a couple weeks, just doing nothing. I'm 19 and, sunning myself. He comes out to the pool, fully dressed, on his way to work. My dad's he owned a shopping center, and
Sure.
he had a grocery store. So he worked all the time. And he comes, yes, ASU is the Harvard of partying. I got a degree in pool sciences. It's true.
A true BS, yes.
Yeah. And so he comes over to me, and I feel this. I got my eyes closed. I feel this shadow, fall over me. He goes, "Megan, get up. Get up and get out and get a job. And if you don't have a job in a week, you're out." And he goes, "I don't care if you work for me or for somebody else, but you better get a job." I was like, "All right, then, vacation's over." "Okay, Dad."
Yeah, the first 19 years were fun, and I got to be an adult person, I guess, or something like that.
So I went to the mall, and I tromped around the mall, and I put all my applications in, and I started working in retail. I think I worked at a jewelry store, and then somebody stole a diamond ring while I was selling to them. And that was terrifying for me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to work with less expensive things from now on, because that was awful. They were like interrogating me about this stolen ring that I had no idea how they got it. I think they were, they distracted me, and somebody else reached over the counter and grabbed it. They were professionals. What are you going to do? I was like, as a kid. And so I went to then like a clothing store, and God, retail is terrible. It's
Yeah.
so bad. I love restaurant work because there's no dressing rooms to clean up. The worst in the restaurant business is having to deal with ketchup, which we call the devil sauce. But other than the ketchup, it's so bad, especially when you go to grab a plate and you accidentally stick your finger in a pile of ketchup. It is just the grossest, and it happens almost every day.
Oh yeah.
But in retail, the things people do in dressing rooms, you can't even believe what they do to the clothes. And just spewing them about everywhere, piling them up, never hanging them back up. And then they had all these rules where you had to like line things up on the like exactly, and how to fold stuff. And it was coming from a girl who couldn't keep her room clean. That was not for me. I was just horrified. But I worked in retail for a while, until I decided, this is terrible. This is no way to live your life. So what was I doing after that? Oh, I went to I worked for my dad. So my dad decided he wanted to open up a little ice cream shop in the shopping center that he owned, and we would run it together. He would put me in charge. I had worked for my dad for many years in his grocery store, so he and I worked together a lot. And I started working in a little our little grill and ice cream shop called Susie's, and we called it Susie's because my grandfather has a lot of granddaughters, and he couldn't remember any of our names, and he would call us all Susie. None of us were named Susie. Nobody was named Susie. Like, not one of us. There wasn't a Susie in the entire family, but he would, hey Susie, it's like saying hey kid.
Mhm.
And that was my dad's dad, and it was just funny, so we decided to call it Susie's. And I worked, oh God, 18-hour days there sometimes. I would sleep there because I was the one doing the payroll, the ordering, and the serving, and the hiring, and the training, and everything. And it was fun. It was a good time because I enjoyed cooking. I did the cooking too, and we had subs, and we had fryers, and we had burgers. Just like frozen stuff that you throw in a fryer, and it was no big deal. We did sub sandwiches and then ice cream.
Okay.
And my dad was the king of sub sandwiches. He made them in his deli, and they were famous in the neighborhood where it was in Oak Lawn, Illinois. His little deli and grocery store was called Buzz In, Buzz Out. It had a little B on the sign, and it was one of the first. It was like a privately owned 7-Eleven, except better. It had a pizza place in it. It had the first video store in the area. It had a full deli and lots of liquor. It was a great place, just an absolutely great place. So this little offshoot did his subs, which were a little different. We added like a piccalilli on top. It was cute. So I did that for a couple of years until somebody wanted to buy it, and then I decided to go work for a temp agency. Meanwhile, I went to community college here and there. Like, I took food service classes. I got my license because I had to get for food safety to open up the restaurant. So I got a lot of experience in dealing with the city and the health inspectors, right? My dad threw a health inspector out of our restaurant once. It was so funny. He called her the C word and threw her out because she was really being horrible. And the city knew him very well. She was really being terrible. I mean, she was just nitpicking everything, and I'd never heard my dad use language like that before. And he just said, "That's it. Get out. You're a C word. Get out. You're a C word. Don't come back." And I thought, well, this is it. We're going to get shut down, But it turned out that the city liked his business better than they liked that health inspector, so they sent us a new one. And it was the kind of place where, I got pulled over once for speeding on Cicero Avenue. And the police officer came up to my window and said, "Why are you speeding?" And I said, "Sir, my father owns this store over here. And I was supposed to lock up, and I forgot to lock the door. And if I don't get back there," because I did that one night. So if I don't get back there and lock that door, I'm in trouble. And he goes, "Oh, is your dad Dennis?" I said, "Uh-huh." He goes, "Oh shit, we better get you back to the store." He took me back. He got me there, checked the doors. Like, he went in, looked around, because I was like, "This door's open, sir. I got to get back there. I forgot the door." And then
Oh
he was
my
there,
goodness.
he looked around and let me lock it up, and then, got me out of there. He didn't give me a ticket either, because he was like, "Oh shit, I know your dad. This is bad." So he's like, "I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of him." I'm like, "Tell me about it."
Yeah.
So after that, after he sold that, I went to work for a temp agency doing office work, because I really hated retail. And like I said, I had gone to a couple of like community college classes. So I took food service, I took graphic design. I was kind of dabbling just to see, like, is there anything I'm really interested in? Because I really wasn't interested in really much. I did some auditioning for things in Chicago. I moved out. I got up from my parents' house. I went down. I lived in a very dangerous but cheap neighborhood in the city, on the north side, near North Side. And I tried auditioning for things and then realized, I know I'm talented, but I hate auditioning. And I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I hate the rejection. You have to be prepared to take so much rejection in that scenario, no matter how good you are.
Yeah.
Um, and I just didn't have the patience for it. So I started temping to pay the bills. And I was doing office work. And I was working a temp job for Service Master, which is a cleaning service that was featured in Seinfeld, because it was the one in Seinfeld that they said was a cult. Like, you
Oh
get sucked
gosh.
into a cult through the cleaning service. Well, because it was like a Christian based firm, and they were kind of culty, like, but I mean, they had this reputation for like trying to witness to their clients. And I was just working there as like copying stuff. And I was listening, though. I've always been an AM radio fan since the time that I was 15. I love Don and Roma in the morning on
Oh
WLSAM. You know Don
yes.
and Roma?
Yeah. I used to live in Springfield from
Oh my God. So you know.
94 to 2000. So, and that was, and given that, you follow politics, I'm going to name drop here some Illinois politicians. You're going to know exactly who they were. Jim Edgar, George Ryan, Mike Madigan.
George Ryan. All our governors that ended up in jail.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, except Edgar. Except
Edgar did
Edgar.
go to jail. That's true. There were
He's about the only one.
three Illinois governors that went to jail. I can't remember
Yeah.
the first one's name, but it was Ryan, and then Blagojevich, and there was one before Ryan.
Oh, Jesus. Hang
I
on.
don't remember. This is a good trivia question, but if you just Google Illinois governors who went to jail, it'll come up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
we
pretty
have
much.
we have a joke in Illinois, that our license plate slogan should be Illinois, where our governors make our license plates.
Yeah. And that's not wrong. So when you said Oaklawn, refresh my memory. Oaklawn is DuPage County?
No, it's Cook
It
County.
is still Cook. Okay,
Oh
all
yeah,
right. I forgot.
it's right off of Cicero and 103rd, basically, like 103rd
Okay.
Avenue and Cicero, is Oak Lawn, and it's a nice little blue collar neighborhood. Little small bungalows, working class people,
Oh, yeah.
great Italian restaurants, lots of
Mm.
Italians there, lots of Polish, very, very, and now a lot of Islamic people. There's a big mosque there, and so there's a lot of Islamic people there too. In fact, that's who my dad sold his eventually sold his shopping center to, was a Muslim guy who paid top dollar for it. So he took it. He was like, "I'm not going to turn it down. No way, man."
Yeah, hey,
Um,
he's got the
uh,
cash.
they had that big mosque in Bridgeview, which is right next to Oak Lawn.
Okay.
Um, that was a real famous mosque. A couple of guys from there went to Guantanamo. We're not sure why. And I don't know if it was legit or not. These days with the FBI, now I'm not sure what I believe anymore. It's like, geez, maybe
Oh,
they've been doing this
Lord.
to maybe they've been setting up everybody, for a long time. And especially after
Oh.
I've met recently some Muslims in Dearborn, I'm starting to question all the things I've been told about all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not sure any of it was true. So, who
Oh,
knows?
I
So,
remember.
yeah,
So go ahead, please.
yeah.
Keep going.
So I'm at Service Master one day, and I have been listening to AM radio, to WLS in particularly, since I was 15. Now, I have to tell you, my dad listened to AM radio, same that one, and he used to love listening. I don't know the name I can't remember the name of the station, but it was the one that was real far left. on the AM dial, and he would listen to it and laugh hysterically. My dad's very conservative, but he would love to listen to this one station that had these crazy people talking, about how much they hate Republicans, and he would get a kick out of it. He would fall asleep to the AM radio. So at midnight, not George Norrie, who was the one before him? Art Bell.
Art Bell, yeah.
Art Bell would come on. Do you remember Jay Marvin before Art Bell? He would come on at 10. Jay
Believe
Marvin.
I do, yeah.
He used to
Believe
call
I do.
people brain stems and hang up on them when they would say something stupid. I used to get such a kick out of that. And so my dad would fall asleep to the AM radio, and a lot of times I would fall asleep with him. My mom slept in a different bedroom because she couldn't take the radio and the snoring. My dad would snore. Yeah, like Air America, but it was before Air America. It was something very similar, Joe. My dad would fall asleep to that AM radio, and sometimes I would go in there and I would fall asleep with him too, listening to the AM radio, and we would laugh and laugh and then fall asleep. And that was when I was little, like 10, 11. Like I'd go in there and just hang out with Dad, and then we'd fall asleep listening to this crazy radio. And I've just always been really politically aware. And it's because of my dad. He's a history buff. He went to Brown University. He's highly educated, very smart, loves the presidents, loves history, has every book on every president you can imagine. He has an entire wall full of biographies. He's just very, very smart. And yet he thinks he's not smart because he had trouble reading when he didn't read well till he was 10. And now he reads and reads and reads and reads, and that's all he does. And he had a hard time getting good grades, even at Brown. He was a football player. That's why they recruited him. He was a quarterback at Brown. So he kind of has a low opinion of himself and how smart he is because he never got great grades. But he's a man who is probably dyslexic or had some sort of dyslexia that was never diagnosed. But he has an incredible mind, and he just imparted that to us as kids. And my mother was always in agreement with him. My parents are both real conservative, and they're not boomers. They are from the forgotten generation, born in 1941 and 1945, which is before the boomers. And so they're from a different generation who were the war generation, after the greatest and before the boomers. They're like right in the middle. So my dad he volunteered to go to Vietnam, although they never sent him. They put him in intelligence because he's far too smart. I mean, even the military recognized how smart he is, and they stuck him in Hawaii, which is where he met my mom. He was in intelligence in Hawaii, and she was Miss Waikiki, and he met her in a bar, and that was that. And so he married her, and all my family, we have half the family in Hawaii, and he took her back to Chicago. And my dad is not medium smart. My dad is very smart, but he thinks he's medium smart, which is too bad. But so I'm working. So I have this and Rush Limbaugh was introduced to me by my sister when she was in college. So I have two older sisters. They are 5 and 6 years older than me. So they weren't really around much when I was little. I don't really have a lot of memories of them, because by the time I can remember things, because I have ADD and I have bad memory capacity, I forget things. So I forgot most of my small childhood. By the time I can remember them, they were in college. And they were very conservative too. And my sister Stephanie found Rush. And she was like, she came home for a visit. And she was like, "You've got to hear this guy. You've just got to hear this guy." And I started listening, and I was hooked. And so every morning I would get up for high school at 5 a.m. As soon as I got my driver's license, I would get up at 5 a.m., get in my dad's car, and I don't even know if my parents knew I did this, but I would get in my dad's car and I would drive to Dunkin' Donuts in the dark, listening to Don and Roma because they were on at 5. I would listen to Don and Roma to get my day started. I would go to Dunkin' Donuts. I would get my coffee, and I would drink a cup of coffee while I would sit in the car and try to prepare myself for getting through high school that I hated. I absolutely hated high school. And I didn't have really anybody that I related to, because there was no one in high school who was aware politically at all of anything in the news. And I was a news junkie. My dad read 3-4 papers a day, and so did I. because that's what there was to read. We had subscriptions to the Spectator. We had subscriptions to the American Spectator and the National Review back when they were really good, and not neocon, never Trumpers or whatever the hell they are now. There was these funny political cartoons by Richard Ramirez, or not Ramirez. That's the serial killer in California. His name is.
Well, he had to do something on the side for fun. I mean, good God,
His name. Now I'm not going to remember, but his last name is Ramirez. His first
I know the guy you're talking about. I can remember how many. I can remember a blue slew, and just like you, when I was in high school, my ritual went like this: alarm goes off at 5 minutes after 6. After 10 minutes of trying to talk myself into doing it, my feet are on the floor. I'm in the kitchen. The local newspaper's in front of me, and the first place I go is not sports, it's the op-ed.
Op-eds.
Because I'm reading Art Buchwald.
Oh,
I'm reading
Art Buchwald.
William F. Buckley Jr.
Yes.
Yes. I think the paper carried Buchanan. They definitely had
Buchanan.
Dr. Walter Williams.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah. So
Walter
I was
the great.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
When I would read Ann Coulter at the time was being published. She was young and funny and just so acerbic and just sharp elbows. You want to talk about somebody with sharp elbows?
Woo.
Nobody does it better than Ann Coulter. Michael Ramirez, thank you, Joe.
That's it.
Not
that's
Richard.
It. That's it.
That's the freaking Night Stalker. And I'm not talking about Richard Ramirez. But Ann Coulter was published in either the National Review or the Spectator. I don't remember which one.
Probably the Spectator, if I had to guess.
When it would come in the mail, it would be this big publication, like real tall. I remember it being tall and kind of glossy, and I would be so excited. And I would read her columns and laugh and laugh and laugh. And I was weird. I was a weird kid. Nobody really related. I had one friend in high school who would tell me, you need to calm it down with this stuff. Nobody here cares. Nobody cares about this. Yeah. And now what's funny is that we still are friends. She's still my best friend. And she's so much more rabid now about it. She used to be very far left, and now she's so far right. I have to talk her down. I'm like, wait a minute, come down to reality. So it's funny that I've seen that switch in her. But anyway, skipping ahead to the service master, because this is when I got into radio. This is a long way around saying how I got here. But it is important to remember to know why I was interested in AM radio in the first place. So I think I laid that foundation. But I'm at Service Master and I'm doing my stupid copy job or whatever. And I've got my headphones in. I always had my headphones in. I had a little Walkman. Remember the Walkmans?
Oh, yeah.
I just had one that had an AM and FM radio, and I was constantly on WLS. And this commercial came on. And it said, it was like talking straight to me. It was really strange. It was, do you love AM radio? Are you an AM radio fan? Do you love Rush Limbaugh and Dr. Laura and, Michael Reagan? If so, you are the person we're looking for to come work at Premier Radio Networks in Chicago. We're looking for a marketing assistant. And if this sounds like, if you've been a talk radio fan, this is your entry level job for you. I dropped everything I was doing. I sat down at the computer. I wrote my cover letter. I told these people, not only am I the person you're looking for, you'll never meet anybody like me again. I've been listening to WLS, AM, talk radio, and Rush Limbaugh since I was a child. I fall asleep to it at night. There's nothing you could ask me that I won't know. I have a passion for this. It's a passion of my, and I didn't know at the time what I wanted to do, but I knew that I loved radio. I love talk radio, just not FM radio. I love AM radio.
Right.
And and there was just something about it that really was soothing to me, and it was like a different world. It was like some other world inside the radio where you could just get lost and and hear anything about anything. There was car talk, and there was remember car talk?
Yes.
It's not just politics, and then there's the late night aliens and demon stories and Gateway to Hell and in the what do they call it? CIA, conspiracies that Art Bell used to talk about.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
fantastic, good entertainment, right? Loved it. And this was kind of before, the internet was around, but it wasn't
It
It
hadn't taken
wasn't
hold yet.
it wasn't what it is,
Yeah.
now. And I was just enamored by AM radio. So anyway, I sent my resume and that cover letter that day. I mean, I did it immediately. And I think that was the first time that ad had run. I would know because I listened to it 24/7. I was on that station. I would know. I knew their entire lineup. I knew what time the commercials would be done at 5:06. And when the top of the hour would start, 6 minutes in, that's when your show would start, and then another, like 8 minutes from there, you get another commercial, and then you get weather, and then you get I knew the whole clock, just
Yep.
because I listened to it for so long. So I got a call immediately. I think it was like the next day, and I had an appointment to come in and interview for the job. I got there. I met my boss. His name was Greg Nowak. He was the senior VP of marketing for Premier Radio Networks, which is the syndicator for Rush Limbaugh, Michael Reagan, Art Bell, Dr. Laura,
Mm-hmm.
so many. Who was that other? Jim Rome,
Yep.
many,
Jim
many, and
Rome.
then a ton of other FM shows that I didn't know anything about. But the big ones in AM were those. Uh, and I sat in his office, and he said, "I got to tell you the truth. Your cover letter really got me, and I think you're the one for this job. And I haven't really even interviewed anybody else, but I think you can do it. Do you want it?" I was like, "Do I want it?" Yes.
Is the
So
Pope Catholic? Of course I wanted. Yes, well, hire me now.
my job was to take these giant photos of Rush. I have a picture, a small one. I think I wait. This is hard to see because of the
No,
light.
I've seen it.
Hold
Yeah.
on. Okay. So he had these like that light is too much. Okay, wait. No, it's hard to see. All right, there it is.
There it is. Yeah,
So we had like big 8x10s, and that's like a picture of him from like the 90s.
I remember.
The one underneath is me and him at a thing that we did, which was fun. But we had these big 8x10 glossies, and part of my job was to take those the ones without signatures, send them to his office in New York and have him sign them and send them back to me. So I would get a stack of signed photographs, glossies of Rush, and I would send them to the affiliates that had requested them, or any new affiliate, basically. So we would sign up a new affiliate. It was a huge contract, big deal, big money,
Sure.
huge money they paid for this to carry the show. And so we would send them signed copies to give out to either their clients or for them to keep in the office. And that was my job, to send that out. And I would also send out promos that he would do for them. So for instance, if a radio station had they had advertisers who would pay to be on Rush's show, and whatever their widget was, they wanted him to do a live reading, right? We would fill all that out, what was to be said, send it to his people in New York. He would record them and then send it back to us, and I would distribute them to the different affiliates. And this was back when there wasn't digital. You're not transferring anything digitally. This is all on CD. So this had to come back to us, and then we would send it out to the affiliates. And so I was really a part of this show on the advertising side that I had been listening to since I was 15. It was thrilling. It was thrilling for me. And I had not met him or anything. He had no idea I existed. I was just some no-name nobody in an office in Chicago far away. But really, for me, I felt like I was on top of the world. And I would also take calls from affiliates who had questions and needed things, and I would, farm those out to the salespeople. And I supported a sales team that were selling his show. They were selling his show to different radio stations. So we would set up calls to affiliates who did not, and this was during Rush's growth boom. This is the 90s.
Oh, I remember.
This is before the $275 million contract, or whatever the hell he got eventually. He's the highest paid radio talker ever. The man's a genius. And I got in on this wave of Rush, insanity. And it was big business, and the salespeople there were making big bucks. I was making hardly anything, but who cared? I was making like $27,000 a year or whatever.
So when your dad found out that you were working in assistance to the Rush Limbaugh show, just how big did his head get? Like, my little girl's working with Rush.
He was excited, except he's funny. He never liked Rush.
Really?
Really.
I
He
figure
would,
as conservative as he was,
I
he'd just
know,
be,
I
yeah.
know. You think he would, but he would listen to Rush, and my dad has a big ego, because
Okay.
he's a smart guy. Not, but I've said like he talks down about himself, but Rush's bombastic attitude always bothered him. He did
Ah,
not like him making jokes about one hand with half my brain tied behind my back,
okay.
talent on loan from God. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't appreciate that. He thought it was braggadocious. He didn't get the joke. He never got the joke. The joke was he was just being funny. He wasn't. He was actually a really humble guy. And when I got to meet him and get to know him and hear stories from his staff and stuff, that was not who Rush was. That was his on-air personality. It was a total put on. And I think those of us who really understood him, who knew him from the beginning, we knew that. But my dad, it just rubbed him the wrong way, and so he was never really excited about that. He would go, Rush. He just wasn't into it, and we would argue about it all the time. I would try to explain it to him. He doesn't mean it that way. He's really being humble. You just don't get it. You don't get the joke. So
Oh,
so then, but he didn't like Dr. Laura. He thought she was naggy. But he was happy that I had a good job. That
right.
for the first time ever, that was my first real job. And so, yeah, he was happy. But the day he was finally proud, like, that sounds so bad. But I mean, the day my dad thought I made it came a little bit later, when I was hired by David Horowitz, because David Horowitz was a hero to my dad. David Horowitz, who wrote Prodigal Son, who was a
Yeah.
hardcore leftist, friend of Billy Ayers and Bernadette
Bernadette
Dorn.
Dorn. Yep.
He became a whistleblower and turned conservative and just turned the left on its head. My dad had an immense amount of respect for him, and I sent him my first pay stub from Front Page magazine, and he
Wow.
just went nuts. He told everybody he knew. I had been writing for free on a little blog that I had for years. Longer. I've been writing longer than 20 years. I've been writing since 5th grade. And when I started a blog, I was probably 19 when I was working for him, and I was writing my own op-eds, which looking back are super cringe. And I think got deleted a long time ago because I was just like, ugh, this is terrible. You grow as a writer, and some things you just, a lot of my political beliefs were so rabid at the time. But anyway, I had this little blog going, and I was working. I did some side jobs for another local blog who had like a little local news thing, and I would cover stories for him. I would go to local events, political events, and cover stories for him. And I'd been writing for a long time. So when I finally got paid for it, and it was by David Horowitz, who signed the check,
Oh
and I sent him a
man.
copy of it, he was beyond. So that's when he really got happy. But after Rush, so I worked at Premier Radio for a couple of years, and then they left town. They moved to New York, and they offered me the chance to come with. I had been there on a trip, to see the office and get some training from Rush's people. But I didn't get to meet him on that trip. I met him at a radio and records convention. Um, I got like a few minutes with him in a conference room. Uh, my boss arranged it, and that was the first time I met him, and it was very exciting. And I have a picture. And then the second time I got to meet him, I had decided I was not going to go with them. I was very sad. I was so sad. I cried for days. I stopped eating, and I had to. I think I had to. I remember having to like go to the doctor and say I can't stop crying because I loved this job. It was my dream job, and I couldn't take the job in New York because I knew I wouldn't make it on the salary they were offering in a place
Hmm.
that I had no support system and no way to make a living. In New York City, a $30,000, they were willing to up my salary to $30,000, and I was like, where the hell am I going to live? New Jersey, maybe in an apartment with
Yeah.
no support system. I didn't know anyone in New York. My entire support system was Chicago, and I had just met my husband. I just started dating him when this happened, and so it felt like my life fell apart, and I couldn't go, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I just felt awful, and I was in a deep depression, and had to like take sleeping pills for a while because I couldn't sleep.
Oh, wow.
But interestingly enough, my boss, he understood that he was kind of upset that I wouldn't go with him to New York. But here's a guy who made like $250,000 a year, and in the '90s was a real big deal,
Yeah, exactly.
And so he arranged for me to get an interview at WLS, and I got hired over there immediately. And so things began to look up, and I thought, well, maybe this won't be so bad. I'm going to work at the radio station there where I have. And so I can't tell you how cool it was to walk into the break room and see Don Wade getting coffee. I would feel like I can't help myself. Oh, one time I walked into the break room and Tony freaking Snow is standing there getting coffee.
My word.
Tony Snow. I lost it. I lost my cool. I was like, sir, I am so sorry. I'm going to be so stupid right now, but I have to tell you how much I love you. And I know I'm not supposed to do this because I work here, but God, I love you, It was so fun. He was a super nice guy. And there were always celebrities walking around, Chicago sports stars. I worked right outside. I was an assistant to the programming director or whatever. And I worked right outside the studios for the FM station. There were 4 stations there. It was WLS AM, then WXCD FM, which at the time was classic rock with Patty. Oh God, what was her last name? It's going to kill me. Anyway, she was fantastic, a DJ that was on the classic rock station. And there was another DJ. I can't remember their names now. It's been too long. And Kevin Matthews was right there in the studio. So like right around the corner, there was a glass window. I could see them doing the show. So celebrities would literally, anybody they had on Kevin Matthews was literally walking right by me. It was at one time David Duchovny came in, and the whole office, all the women were lined up on my desk, like, when's he coming in? It was so fun.
All these women are hovering around your desk going, and you're looking up there going, help you?
Can I help you?
No, that's fine. I'm just doing my lipstick. No problem. I'm just, making sure that my makeup's right where it needs to be. Oh, it's taking you half an hour to do it? I mean, really?
It was fun. I mean, WLS was right on State Street, right across from the Chicago Theater. And I mean, really in a epic, and Marshall Fields was on the next corner, so it was a wonderful place to work, and it was so lively and so fun. And ABC owned the all 4 stations. It was WXC, and ESPN and Radio Disney. Those are the 4 stations.
Sure.
And so I did work for all 4 stations. Ro Khan and Gary Meyer, who you must know that show, the epic Chicago show. That show was another one of my favorites. And I would sneak upstairs when it was 5 o'clock after I was done working. I didn't leave that station until 9 o'clock at night every night. I'd walk upstairs. I'd sneak into the back studio. I had made friends with the producer of their show on purpose. I made sure that I knew those guys in the booth, and I'd bring them coffee and I'd butter them up. And eventually we were good friends. And so every night I would sneak past the receptionist who hated me, and I would go into the studio because nobody was supposed to be in there. I would hang out with the producer, but I would bring stories that they would use all the time. I would find stuff. I would scour the internet, and I would print stuff out that I thought they would love, and I would run it upstairs at night, and I'd be like, here, give them this. They'll love this, and a lot of times that they would. So Ro and Gary got used to seeing me there, and they knew who I was, because I was the ticket girl. I had all the tickets to the one of my jobs was to distribute the tickets to the ball games that we had box seats at and concerts.
Mm-hmm.
And I had them So anybody who I had to save them for obviously the talent and for clients.
Sure.
And so I was the one handing them out. And Ro would sometimes come down to my desk and he would say, what do you got? What do you got? And I'd be like, well, I got,
Hey man,
here's what we got.
fix me up, man.
We
Can
got
you hit me
House
up?
of Blues. Here's this one's at House of Blues. We got Cubs rooftop tickets on this date, Bulls tickets on this date, and then so that's how he got to know me. So when he would see my face in the studio, he was never annoyed, and neither was Gary. And when that receptionist who hated me sometimes would come in and be like, "No one is supposed to be here," both of them would go, "Would you leave her alone already? We like her."
That's when you know you've made it.
Yeah.
When the on-air talent is looking at the reception going, "Leave her the hell alone. This chick is with us. Shut up."
Yeah, they were cool. They were very cool, and they were nice to me. So I learned from the producer. I would watch him do the board, and back at WLS is a dinosaur of a station. They never upgraded their technology. The board was giant with these massive switches and buttons, and I never learned how to do the whole thing, but occasionally he would let me push stuff. Occasionally he'd be like, "All right, you want to bring in a commercial?" And they're like, yes I do. When you get to push the button, you have to get to pull the volume down and the other one up at the same time, and this is really cool. So at the time I decided, well, I want to produce a show. I want to do this. So I signed up for like a radio course to learn how to do that. And I was immersed in that for a while. And my friend who was the producer there, he was helping me, he was mentoring me a little bit. And I did some voiceover work. That was part of the schooling. It was part of getting through the program was you had to do certain commercial work. And then the station started using me to do that because I said, I need to do this for school. So is there anything that you need done? And there was all kinds of voiceover work to do. Do a 30-second spot, do a 60-second spot for this car dealership or that thing. So I did those. And that was fun. It was good experience. And so I got some, I guess on-air time because I was doing commercial work. And they never paid me for it. It was for my school anyway, and I was just there. So, in radio is notoriously cheap. I never made more than
How cheap are they?
$27,000 a year there, and I was working all the time. I was working on weekends. I was doing Radio Disney. I was doing Radio Disney, like dancing in parking lots with little kids, and they never paid me extra for any of it. I was just trying to get somewhere. I was just hustling, and they don't care. They'll take advantage of that for forever. And so eventually my husband was like, look, the concerts are fun because we got free tickets to everything. And the ball games are fun. And the lobster and the steak dinners are great, but you could be making twice what you're making doing this kind of work anywhere else. And I did start to realize that it was like, yeah, we can go to Rolling Stones concerts for free, but it's not putting food on the table. None of this is putting food on the table, and nobody ever there. It just didn't work. I could never get anywhere else. It just was like constant grunt work, because once you do that stuff for them, they don't want to lose you. So they don't promote you.
Of course not.
I was running commercials from, they had 8 tracks. I shit you not, 8-track tapes. Remember 8 tracks?
I remember 8 tracks. Yes, ma'am,
well,
I do.
That's how they would record commercials, even in 1998 or 99. Yeah, okay,
I believe it.
And then I would take these physical commercials and I would run them upstairs, and they'd have to be in a certain order, and I have to tell them this is one goes at this time and this time and this time and this time. I mean, there's a whole thing in radio. Is very complicated. It's very complicated. And then someone else takes the 8-track and jams it into the player at the right time and hits a button, and that's how it works. It's hilarious. We had a phone, a brick phone, that they would in 1999. I had a car phone by that time. I had flip phones. The radio station would send us out with a 1980 brick phone. It was like the thing was hilarious. It weighed like 15 pounds. So they're cheap and they don't pay. And it just got to a point where I couldn't get ahead. I couldn't get anywhere there. And my husband was just like, we're struggling. We were both working 2 jobs. I was still working a retail job. and at Crabtree and Evelyn on Michigan Avenue while he was working at Target at night after his office job. And we never saw each other, and we were just hustle, hustle, hustle all the time and barely making it. So I made the decision, and it was a tough one, but I made the decision to leave there and go into staffing. I got hired at a staffing company because I had staffing work before, but
Sure.
this time I was an office manager supporting salespeople, something I had done before. And it was kind of sad for me, but I did get paid double. They started me out at like 47 a year.
Oh,
And
wow.
by the time I left, I was making 55. And, it was a good company with nice people, but it wasn't in the industry I wanted to be in. And I did that for several years just to pay the bills. And then my husband got injured, and he tore his ACL and was on disability, and things got rough, and I had to go and get a second job. So I decided to wait tables. Now, I had waited tables when I was a teenager for my dad's friends in restaurants that they
Hmm.
owned. He had a lot of restaurant friends. And so I had worked all over the place at banquets and different things. And so I went to work at Leona's Pizza in Chicago. And it was probably one of the greatest things I ever did as an adult because I was making cash money, and getting free food, bringing it home every night. And we lived on that. We lived on quarts of chicken soup. Anything the kitchen wanted to get rid of, I was taking home with me.
Yep.
You make great friends in the restaurant industry. These are really hardworking, salt of the earth kind of people who love each other because it's a really hard job, and they support one another because it's very
Sure.
tough. And that was right around the time 9/11 happened. I remember I had to go to work like the next day after that, and it was just a very surreal thing. We had a lot of firefighters who were customers, a lot of city workers who were customers
Yeah.
there, regulars that we knew, and people were devastated, just devastated by it. And um, I remember that job being a real lifesaver for me. So I have these real positive feelings about restaurant work anyway, because I just really always enjoyed it. I love rolling silverware. I find it really zen and calming, and I just love it. It's mindless work. It's easy. It's not it's physically hard, but it's mentally easy. And so that's how that came into being. I'm used to working really hard and working a lot of hours and several jobs to make things work. I get that from my dad. My dad always used to say, he's a business owner, but he's not. He said, "I'm not above cleaning a toilet. Toilet needs to be cleaned. You get
Yeah.
down on your hands and knees and you do it." And he
Yeah.
made sure that that's what we did.
Yep.
We were not princesses. There was none of that. Like, my dad had a lot of money. He made a lot of money because he was very hardworking, and he ate, slept, and everything at that job, at his businesses, and it paid off. We belonged to a country club my whole life, and my dad was a very successful man, but he was a hard worker, and there was no getting around that with us. You would get your hands in the mud and the muck, and you would do it and not complain. And he didn't want to hear about your nails. He didn't want to hear about your hair. He wanted you to get down on your hands and knees and clean a toilet. And when it was done, get up and dust the cans and mop the floor, because if you own this place, you own this place, all of this place. And
Yep.
there's no making anybody else do it. If you used to have me clean the alley and pick up garbage outside. That was my job. That was, you
Yep.
do whatever it was. And I tell you, I probably didn't do enough of that with my children. I see entitlement in them sometimes. Like, when I have to remind them that you clean that sink out, including the drain. Put your hand in the drain and take out the gross, slimy food. Guess what? You got to clean it unless you want roaches. It drives me nuts when they leave stuff like that. My dad would never allow that, just never. And I'm grateful to him every single damn day,
Yep.
because I wouldn't have survived. And my husband and I probably would have divorced if I were one of those women who thought I was entitled to sit at home and do nothing. I've never had that mindset. My mindset has been, you will work. From the time my dad stood over me and his shadow fell over me at the pool, even before then, he had me working at 5, dusting cans.
Yep.
But those lessons are tough and they must be learned. Life is hard, Your Highness. Life is pain.
Our dads are different and similar. My dad was a a union worker. He ran a crane at a local plant here in my hometown. And when he would get off work, one of two things would happen. Either dad would come home at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and he'd either get a little bit of sleep, or he'd go to a buddy of his, and they had a really cool arrangement. The guy would quote the jobs. My dad would run bulldozer, backhoe, and do all of the grader work. Or and if he wasn't doing that, and dad wasn't doing that, he was, working on machinery. He got called into a court case, not of his own making. And the lawyer for the other guy said, "You strike me as a jack of all trades and the master of none." Well, Dad had never heard that expression before. Dad was an old country boy, and when he came home, he told my mom about it. He just died laughing. He said, "That's so funny." And it's so true. But my dad had a basic philosophy, and he always tried to inculcate this into me, is that everybody is equal, the proof of which is the way they put on their pants. They all start at the bottom, and they all go up. It's just in life, as with pants, some go higher than others.
That's good.
And, Dad worked hard all his life. He was tinkering with everything, even to the day he died. Dad had a little, cinder block garage, which was about maybe 150 feet away from the house, and he's just sitting over there just toying around with stuff. That's what he would do all the time. And yeah, it's really kind of funny because, I read your tweet about the Declaration of Independence concerns that your children had with regard to this kitchen situation, and I'm not going to lie, I was like, oh, that's a good one. I got to remember that. That's
My
good.
middle child is so funny. She's 14 and she's so funny. I think she has a career in stand-up comedy. She's so quick-witted. Every joke she makes has multiple layers to it. And I'm not sure if she knows that. I'm not even sure. It just comes out of her mouth. And when I said it, for those of you who don't know the tweet, Mr. Fox and I are laying down the law this evening because lately the kitchen has been a mess. Now, the kitchen is the older girl's responsibility. My 17-year-old and 14-year-old. After dinner, their dad and I cook dinner. Their responsibility is to clean up after dinner. And they have been told how to do this. So my husband says, before we leave the table tonight, your mother and I want to have a conversation with you about how.
If you're the kid, that's like, oh, great.
Oh yeah, their faces were like, oh God. And he's like, we got to get the rules down about how we are going to do kitchen chores and how it's going to be. And there's been some squabbling between the two of them about splitting the events. Splitting the chores. So he says, here's how it's going to be now. You're going to take turns every night. One of you will just do the entire kitchen. We're tired of fighting with you. But when you're done, you're to come and find me or your mother and get us to inspect it. And you will not leave. You will not go to your room, get on your phone, or do a damn thing until you come and get us to inspect it. And you don't leave the kitchen until it's done. They say, okay, all right, okay. And I said, well, girls, I can create a checklist. I create checklists for them, and they have these memories in our homeschooling years of checklists on every door of every room. And these are the things you had to do to clean this particular room. So yeah, go to the tweet.
Okay. Yep, hang on. Okay, we got it back up.
I say, Mr. Fox and I laying down the law about dinner chores with our children because the kitchen is never clean. Should I make a checklist? The children all say, no. I go, why not? Middle child goes, your checklist look like the Declaration of Independence.
Oh my God.
And I put #list of grievances. This is how smart she is. That like, if you really think about that, like the Declaration of Independence is like, it was a list of grievances.
Yeah, it really was. Like, we're pissed off and we're going to bitch about it, and you're going to listen to us
about it. And here are all the things we are no longer going to take from you. And like,
listen, you white powdered haired fruit. This is what we think about it, and you're going to listen to us. Damn it!
And also, if you picture it in your mind, it's this huge long document with giant signatures. She's so funny that, that made me laugh so hard. It's just, I just think she's so smart. She's more than medium smart. She got the smart side of the family.
Oh gosh. So
And you know what? Now I've reminded myself, nobody came to me to inspect the kitchen, and I swear to God, I'm going to drag them out of bed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Tonight, I'm dragging your ass out to finish it if you didn't do it.
It's called maternal privilege. You brought them into this world, most assuredly you shall take them out.
And I have never done that. My mother used to do that. If the kitchen wasn't clean, we always used to try to skimp on the mashed potato pot because it's gross to touch mashed potatoes. And my mother would come into our rooms, flip on the light, and say, "Get up, 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 up. You didn't do the dishes properly." And we'd be like, "But we have school. We're sleeping. We're sleeping." She'd be like, "I don't care.
Get your ass up.
Get in there. Get in there." And we'd be, half asleep, grumbling to the kitchen, and we would do it. I've never done that to my kids, but I swear to you, it's happening tonight if I go down there. It's a mess. I will post pictures on Twitter.
You know what's happening right now, right? One of the three of them is listening to this, not really paying attention, because what's going to happen is they just heard your statement, and whoever's got mom monitoring duty is running to the other two going, "Quick, the ass is in there. We've got to fix this now. She's going to come inspect the thing."
I mean, the thing with kids is that consistency is so hard. To stay consistent with your children. Parenting is really hard. It's a very tough task, and I try not to be judgmental of other people. I have enough problems of my own. And one of my main problems with parenting is being consistent. I have all these great intentions, and rules that I set for them that I mean, and I mean it really, really deeply. And then I get distracted. I have really bad ADD, and I get distracted and I forget, and they take advantage of that. Those little suckers.
Oh, of course. They know. Hey, look, we were kids once. We knew how this went. Did you expect this would be different when you had your own? Seriously?
No, I guess I didn't. But it's much harder on this side of it. When you're a kid, you think your parents have it so easy, and they have all the power. But really, it's a constant struggle against self and against, you're always struggling with yourself to be disciplined, and which is what we're trying to help our children with. But how do you help your children be disciplined when you lack it in yourself? It's very hard. It's like looking in a mirror, I'm looking at my child, and she's exhibiting all the same struggles and problems that I have that I haven't conquered. And then who am I to say, well, damn it, be better. I need to be better. I could be better about keeping up with the rules that I say I want enforced. I need to enforce them. And it's every bit as hypocritical of me to not enforce the rules and then say, why didn't you clean your room?
Yeah, exactly.
Why didn't I clean my room? Why didn't it's very hard.
Let me, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the answer to the first question. And
oh God, yeah, that was the first question. I'm so sorry, but you did ask a question. You did ask a question that asked me to explain my entire life.
Now, what? Now, wait a minute. See, I'm gonna let you in on.
We still didn't even get to the journalism part.
Oh, honey, you're bless your heart. You're coming back here at some point. I don't know when, but
Sure.
I mean. I tell my guests all the time, assuming you don't do something so egregious to piss me off so thoroughly that I will never have you back. I mean, if you message me and say, "Hey Brian, I got something burning on the brain I want to talk about," I'm like, "Come on, when do you want to do it?" I am southern right down to the bone. So if I invite you on my electronic front porch, oh honey, you got the standing invitation. You can come back anytime you want to. So
okay,
yeah,
we'll probably need to just to answer that first question.
Well, no, because this is like a trip down memory lane for me. So, okay, Oakland, Illinois. That means that you were reading any of the following writers. Novak. Royko. Yes. It was the next name I was going to. Yep, Royko. Novak. John Cass. Richard. What was the hell was his name? Reporter. Yeah, Richard Roper. Roper's another one. All these great old Studs Terkel. All these great old Chicago reporters. So, two-part question. and we'll probably get this done in probably 6 hours. No, Megan, you just run as far and as long as you want to. You just go on. Who did you style yourself? And I think I know the answer to this because just the Gaga reaction you had to mention her name. Who did you want to style yourself after as a writer, and how much does being a mother influence either how you write or what you write about?
Oh, well, obviously, there's two people who come to mind, really. And obviously, Ann Coulter. I was in love with Ann from the second I read the first thing I ever read of hers. The only time I ever got disappointed with her was when I went to buy her first book, and I was so excited to read it, and I realized it was just a collection of all the articles I already read several times.
Yeah.
And that and really, she never wrote an original book. Everything she has ever written, and that should have been a lesson to me, to be like, you can make $1 million by just republishing your columns into a book, and I've never done it. I really should do it, even though it disappointed me as a fan deeply because I had already read all of it, and I was very disappointed by that. I really wanted Anne to write something new that I hadn't read, to get to know her better, or get to know a topic better that she was interested in, and that never really happened. I quit reading her books after like the second or third because it was all stuff I'd already read. But no shade on Anne. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And this might surprise people, but Peggy Noonan was a very big influence.
Oh, Peggy's awesome.
Probably more so than Ann Coulter in style, in her style, her writing style, not particularly the topics. And Peggy Noonan eventually went on to disappoint me with her, some of her opinions that started changing and apologizing for people like the Clintons. I mean, Peggy really became somebody who was the cocktail party type of person. You know, she was the Mitt Romney type of person, and it upset me.
But when Peg's fingers are on a keyboard, it's like sitting down to read a Peg. For those of you out there who've never read Peggy Noonan, we both highly recommend it. Peggy Noonan is like that friend you sit down with on an overstuffed couch with two large, excessively sized cups of coffee, and you're just shooting there. You're just sitting there shooting the shit.
Yeah.
You're catching up with each other, and you haven't talked in forever, and Peggy's just like your best friend. That's what reading her column to me is like. It's like, let me tell you what I think about this. And usually that's how it would sound. Just that sort of very matter-of-fact sort of, which your writing has a lot of that quality. It's very matter-of-fact.
Well, I found Peggy to be very, like you said, conversational. Like it was like you were talking to a friend, right? Like you were listening to a friend. And you did feel like there was a conversation going on and not someone talking at you. And she's also very poetic. I remember she wrote this column. I'll never forget this. I don't have the exact phraseology and I can't find it right now, but it was on or near the September 11th, disaster. The first column she wrote after September 11th was one of the most beautiful things I ever read in my whole life. And I remember she described a time when she was at a party with other, and I think James Carville was there, and big name political people were there, and they were standing under cherry blossom trees, and the blossoms were falling from the sky, and she described it as like a blessing from heaven. And just the way she
this column
could draw you into a scene and set it and make you feel it. And it was like I could feel the petals, on my head and blowing around me. She's brilliant. She's brilliant. Yeah. She's absolutely brilliant.
My favorite Peggy Noonan story isn't necessarily a column, but it's a story that she tells about Reagan's funeral. And this, for people who are younger than we are, who don't necessarily know the tale, former President Reagan passed away in 2004. And when the funeral was held in D.C., it was like old home time because everybody came in for this from all over the world. But the story goes that it was told in advance that the lady Margaret Thatcher his great partner wouldn't be able to make it. Well, they're having the visitation in the Capitol Rotunda, and there's just a swarm of people. And I guess it was overwhelming at that point. So to kind of gather herself, she stepped into the majority leader's office. Now, the way it was described, there's this giant window that looks out on the Capitol lawn, and Peggy Noonan looks over at the window, and the sun is setting, but there's one lone silhouetted figure against that window. The person turns, starts walking toward Peggy Noonan, and Peggy's still she's giving it, this.
Mm-hmm.
And when finally the person got up on Peggy Noonan close enough that Noonan could make out who it was Lady Margaret Thatcher.
Mm.
And she said, and quite startled, and appropriately so, Peggy looked at her and said, "Lady Thatcher, it's a pleasure indeed, but forgive me, ma'am, I was given to understand that you would not be able to attend." And Thatcher, with characteristic British stiff upper lip and perfect Maggie, looked at her and said, "My Ronnie needed me. I had to be here for my Ronnie." She walked off. That's all she said. And that was it. And I thought, I will cherish that story to the grave, because that's Peggy Noonan. That's the storyteller quality in her.
Yeah, she's a wonderful storyteller. I heard an interview with her once on the radio, and I was totally riveted by it. And it is upsetting, like, that she eventually kind of joined the never Trump crowd, and the better than that crowd. And although that's okay, I can tolerate people with different opinions. I'm
Sure.
fine. I personally have my own problems with Trump. I find him to be reckless and over the top. And I have this constant phrase in my head, whenever he does something that I think, why did you have to do that? Couldn't you have done this or that? Like, I don't know. I can't think of a specific instance, but there are times when I think, sir, what do you do? Bring it back a notch, just a few.
Reel it in a little bit.
At the same time, there has probably never been a man more wronged in political history than this man. So how much can I blame him for acting in anger or acting recklessly when he was spied on from day one by our disgusting, corrupt federal government, which should be burned to the ground? Personally, I think we should take it down and salt the ashes, start over, because it's just absurd. So every time they convince me that he's the wrong choice, and believe me, I've waffled back and forth saying I'm not voting.
Sure.
For one, I think he's too old. I don't like it that all these old people run everything. Like, if you're 70, it's time to sit on the couch and get your rocking chair and your Afghan and retire. Enjoy your grandkids. Leave it to the younger people, because it's silly. There should be a retirement age for politicians. So that bothers me. And lots of things bother me. I don't like the people he picks. I think he has terrible taste in people.
I agree.
I don't like that he didn't stand up for January 6th political prisoners. I don't like it that he didn't pardon any of them. That he pardoned, rappers and stuff. It's just stupid. So why does he do these things? Believe me, I do criticize this man. I have done it in writing multiple times. I don't understand why he didn't come out and tell people, I'm not Q. You're being had by the deep state. There's a deep state coup going on, and you're being manipulated by it. I don't understand it. There's no way he didn't know what was going on. So I have my problems with him. And every time I think, no, I'm going to vote for anybody else or not vote at all, every time I come to that conclusion, the Democrats do something so stupid and so outrageous, like that picture, like mug shot behind me, which I will probably never take down. It was the first time in damn history of the whole United States that the New York Post didn't run a headline. I went and bought that. When I saw it, I was like, holy crap. Thank God I live in New York. I want to get my hands on a New York Post today. There's no headline. No headline needed. No.
Yep.
So we live in a banana republic. So they go and they do that. And then I'm like, well, now I have to crawl across broken glass to vote for this man. Like, You almost convinced me. You had me convinced that I couldn't be put through it again. And then you go and you do this. What are you doing?
Do you know how many African Americans who otherwise would never have anything to do with? I saw a social media post by a young man who's 33 years old. He's African American, has never voted in his life. And he said, come November 2024, Trump my boy.
Yeah, I mean, I saw those too, and there is some argument to be made, and I see the alternative theories on this that conservatives are kidding themselves if they think that he's going to get the black vote, because and it's racist to even suggest it that he's going to get the black vote because now he's been falsely arrested, and I think. For one, I think that's a very wrong thing to say. It's not racist because here's the problem, and here's where conservatives have a problem with this.
Mm-hmm.
And they deny institutional racism when it comes to our justice system, and that is a stupid and verifiably false claim to make. This is where I part from the right in a big way, and I go way to the left. Our justice system is sick, and now it is not just racist, but racist is one of the things that it is, because there are black people sitting in jail for crimes that white people commit all the time and get half the sentences. You explain that to me.
Yeah.
There's no explanation for it. And one of the things Donald Trump did, which doesn't get talked about enough at all, was prison reform, where at least over 2,000 black and brown people were released from these overly harsh sentencing agreements that, in my journalism, when I finally got to that, I spent many years investigating family court and also just the justice system in general. One of the most interesting interviews I ever did was with a Democrat public defender who has been a public defender in Monroe County, New York, for over 30 years. And it was part of my waking up to, holy crap, our justice system is so weighted. It's so unfair. And here's how it's most unfair to the black population and the poor. Okay, the poor and the black, anybody who's black and anybody who's poor. And if you're black and poor, oh dear God, help you. There's no help for you. There's just nothing. You're just going to take whatever they give to you. If you're white and poor, you're pretty much in the same scenario, except you might get a judge who isn't racist against you. And that's your only hope, because that judge doesn't see you in the same way he sees a black person. And that's just the way it is. And there is and I know that a lot of conservatives will tell me that I'm crazy and it's not true. And black people commit all the crimes, or they commit the most of the crimes. It doesn't matter what the percentage of the crimes committed and the people in jail. That doesn't matter. What you have to look at is the type of crime and what the sentence was imposed on that person. It doesn't matter how many of them are there. It matters what the sentence is, what the charges were, and how it relates to white people with the same charge and what their sentence is. And the data does not lie. It does not lie. So conservatives have a very big problem when they try to say that everything is fair. It's not fair.
I can give them one case right now and prove beyond the shadow of a doubt, and lay aside the political vitriol and volatility of it. Hunter Biden's gun sentence. Okay. That charge under normal circumstances would get him 3 to 5 years in jail. You want to know how I know that? Because his lawyer, not Hunter's, but a lawyer for an African American rap artist who had the exact same thing charged to him, got 3 to 5. His lawyer is on Twitter or wherever going, hey, how come this guy skates?
Unequal justice is it invalidates the law, and this is what we have going on. And yes, part of the problem is racism in our justice system, and to deny it. Now, that doesn't mean that the answer to it is to punish white people. So I veer straight away from the left again, Because the answer is to root out the corruption across the entire board of the
Absolutely.
justice system. And it's not just racism that we need to root out, because poor white people don't have a shot either. Okay, it's
Yeah.
unequal application of the law. The
Absolutely.
rich and the famous and the wealthy can buy their way out of anything,
Damn straight.
and the poor and the black and the brown and the minority, the poor people, if you're black and rich, you have a better shot. Okay, you're more on equal footing. We really have an economic disparity in this country. If you, yeah, Zachariah Anderson did get a very raw deal. So not every white person, not every white person is getting, getting a better deal. I'm not saying that, but technically, looking at statistics, the sentencing is far lighter. And now Zachariah Anderson is just a great case to look at, to see prosecutorial misconduct that happens across the board. I mean, it happens in all these cases. You see prosecutorial misconduct that is going on unchecked, Brady violations, misleading the court, flat out lying, withholding evidence. There's so much going on within our prosecutorial system. So that public defender that I interviewed, the story she told me about the prosecution overcharging her clients, her poor black clients, scaring the shit out of them before they had even had a chance to talk to a lawyer, and cutting a deal with them before the public defender got there.
Oh,
And the deal they would cut, they would go in and say, you are facing 25 years for this. And if you don't sign this deal for 5 years on a lower charge, you will go to jail for 25 years. Then he signed the thing. The public defender would get there and go, oh my God, they overcharged you. You would have got probation. I could have got you probation, and now you're doing 5 years. This should get people fired and banned from public service for life and put in prison. I think prosecutors who do this should go straight to jail. But when was the last time you ever heard of a prosecutor going to jail?
of course. I mean, to me, if we, here's a riddle for everybody. What do you call it when 1/3 of the entire Department of Justice is laid off? A good start.
Yes.
That's exactly how I feel about it, because
Mhm.
I mean, I really hope I'm not about to experience Charlie Brown in the football again. But if the orange guy gets back in and he doesn't take a wrecking ball to
Oh,
it,
see,
we're
but
screwed.
yeah, but you're right.
No,
It is
but he won't.
Charlie it's
Yeah,
Charlie Brown.
it's
I
Charlie in the
mean,
football.
look,
That's exactly how I feel about this.
look, I mean, I have no illusions that voting for Trump is the solution to
Oh God,
anything.
no,
He hasn't learned his lesson. He
no.
still surrounds himself with idiots.
Yes,
And
man.
and
Hmm.
is he going to take a wrecking ball to the DOJ? No, he loves good press more than anything else. He loves the New York Times. He loves Maggie Haberman, who would stab him in the back
Why? That's a little.
7 days out of
Yeah.
the week, and twice on Sundays. She is a lizard person. There's
Yeah.
no reason why he should have anything to do with these reptilians. Honestly,
You.
these globalist vampire,
Blood sucking.
weirdos,
Yeah.
blood
Yeah.
sucking. I don't know why the hell.
Adrenochrome
I
filled.
don't
Yeah,
know
pretty much.
why the hell, but he cares about that. He cares about impressing the lizard people. And when it
He
comes down to it, they all do.
he has the same weakness that Richard Nixon did. At least this is my observation. Nixon wanted to be loved, at a
Mm.
minimum liked. Trump has got the same Achilles heel, because if he were truly the badass, and don't get me wrong, there's certain moments in his life, I think when that dude swaggers into a room, it's like, yeah, the biggest Chad just walked through the door.
Yeah.
But
Well, he has the
he,
gravitas. I mean, he
oh
has
yeah,
all that.
yeah, but he's got
It's
that one
just
Achilles heel, and it's just, yeah. Oh,
his
now,
pride. His
oh
pride. I
yeah.
mean, I used to really get annoyed by people who would say that he is a narcissist, because all politicians are narcissists. Like, you can't.
If you don't have an ego, you shouldn't be running for office.
Well, and you can't. You wouldn't.
Exactly.
You wouldn't be the kind of person that would put the effort into becoming the most popular guy in the ticket. You have to believe that you're somebody special, in order to do that. And in order to believe you're somebody special, you must have an element of narcissism there. And so that criticism always fell flat for me. I was like, well, who cares? Like, everyone in Congress is a narcissist. Why does that bother you? But the other thing about him that is a weak point is that I think he does have a humility problem, to where he can't admit he's wrong or that he made a mistake. I've never heard him say, I'm sorry for shutting down our goddamn economy and keeping my kids out of school for 2 whole years and making my freshman student fail her first year because it was all shit, and putting masks on my face and shutting down restaurants. He did it all. It's his fault. And how dare he suggest the other day that he'd do it again. So he does stupid things like this. Say, I was right. I was totally right. No, sir. No, you were totally wrong to allow people like Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birksenscarf to take our country and destroy our economy, the economy that you built, the economy that you were bringing back from the brink. Gas prices were like $1 something when he left off. My God, you allowed them to kill our economy. The supply chain is still fucked, sir.
Yeah.
You did that. And to then turn around and be like, what? Everything's fine. It's all good. I did everything right. And I got the fastest vaccine. Oh, the jab that's killing everyone? Or like giving people heart attacks, and you still get COVID anyway, and nobody is back. What? I want an apology for that. And this man never apologizes, ever. And I understand that, like, maybe he feels like, oh, well, I can't show that I have any weak spots because then my critics will take it and run with it. But really, sir, do you think that your critics, the Democrats, would then take the opposite side if you said, all of that was wrong, I made a mistake, and those people took advantage of the power that they were given, and then it spiraled out of control, and they used it against me to win an election? You think they would take the opposite tack and say, no, I think that he would win by saying that. I think if he said, I made a mistake. Everybody's human. We all make mistakes.
If he came out and said, I screwed up. I trusted people that I never should have trusted. And it bit me in the ass. I took their advice. I went along with it, trying to do what I thought was the right thing by the country. And I think he wins in a landslide, because at that point, there's a tinge of doubt in everybody's mind, mine included, yours included, everybody else that's watching this guy. Because they're like, did he really? Has he really finally? Did we? Yeah. And then he'll make a statement, and you're like, oh, you putz.
Yeah, like, how dare you suggest you did the right thing? You didn't do the right thing with COVID, Trump. You did the wrong damn thing. And that's okay. It was a scary time. You're going to make mistakes. People will forgive that, but you cannot continue to say, I do it all over again. You'd put my toddler in a mask? Fuck you. Like, that, no.
And the more, I got to put this up here, because this is, I've missed your rants for. Okay, that's got to be a Megan thing, because I have no idea where that comment's going.
Well, the rants on Rumble. You send Rumble rants, which is like a YouTube super chat.
Okay.
So I was grifting on my rapid weight loss. I lost 25 pounds while I was streaming, and this kind of all happened over a course of several months. And so I was getting smaller and smaller, and eventually none of my pants fit. And again, I told you it was a rough financial time. It still is.
Sure.
My income went away. And so I was telling people, I'm like, well, I'm walking around in these pants that are literally falling off me. So I need rants for pants. We need to do rants for pants. And I'm going to take the money I make on Rumble and go to like the thrift store, because I do secondhand shopping, and get some pants that fit, because I am falling out of my pants. They were literally falling off of me. Like, that's and I don't buy clothes for myself very often. So we started a rants for pants grift.
That's great.
And unfortunately, folks, I know you miss it, but I haven't lost any more weight, so I can't grift for a rants for pants yet. Maybe if I lose a few more, we'll do it again.
Oh, goodness. For anybody who is stopping by, my name is Brian Tripp, and I'm the Front Porch Conservative. This lady over here, I still can't get used to this. You know,
I know
still can't
that
get. I know this lady over here
it's really hard. There,
yeah, I know the
me, this
indispensable.
one.
Yeah, that lady is the indispensable Megan Fox. We are just having a glorious good time. We're going to shift gears into journalism. And I'm going to set this up because there is a reporter who has come across my wake. And as a general rule of thumb, I have little use for most reporters these days because there's not an ounce of intellectual curiosity to any of them.
No,
I've never seen such fungus-brained idiots in my life. Okay, and the best example of that is Philip Bump from the Washington Post. Have you seen this?
I thought you were going to say Taylor Lorenz. Now I'm wrong.
Oh no, she's a twit.
She's terrible. But I don't know this guy that you're talking about.
Oh, this will crack you up. So let me set this up. He's on a podcast with a comedian, I believe, and it's not Chrissy, because Lord knows she's finding herself in the way of enough trouble on her own. Bless her heart. Which, by the way, if you're probably figuring out, bless my heart is probably in various forms one of my favorite expressions. But bless his heart, he's on a podcast with a comedian, and it's getting near the end, and they get into a discussion, and I want to set this up because I gotta get your take on this.
Okay. I haven't seen this.
Yeah, so here's Philip Bump of the Washington Post, which was once a great newspaper, but not so much. And this is what the exchange sounds like. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on.
I hate it when Twitter does that.
Well, no, it's not Twitter. It's my tin can and string operation here. Hang on a second. There we go.
I can't hear it.
Oh, wait. I told you. By the way, did I happen to mention I boomer things on occasion?
It happens.
Okay, wait a minute. Come on, guys. Okay, let me fix this. And okay, you're back. Now I got to do that. I got to do this, and that thing goes there, and this thing. Okay, all right. Let's try this again. Strike up the band, boys. In 3, 2, 1.
What do you take from the text message to his adult daughter? 100 text messages. I have to give 50% of my income to Pop.
I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what that means.
Well, it's
I know it's circumstantial evidence, and you prefer that.
No, what could it be?
I have no idea.
But doesn't it?
I don't know.
Well,
I appreciate your.
Has anybody asked her?
I don't know. I don't know.
Don't you think somebody should ask her?
Okay. Like I'm not. I just said I don't know, and I don't know what to make of it, so I have nothing to say about it.
Yeah,
what do you want me to say?
Yeah, but you say there's no evidence, but then there's a text message where he says, "I give Pop 50% of my money." That's evidence.
Okay. Well, okay, fine.
So
it's evidence. I appreciate you having me on.
It doesn't. That something like that. Who do you think is more? I listen to that and I'm saying,
Am I?
You can free to go.
I feel you want me to leave, like just walk out in the middle of this, because that way you can.
You can go.
Right.
Is this a standard? Really, this is the way the Washington Post handles people who disagree with them.
When I agree to be on for 45 minutes, and then
go.
I get on for an hour and 15. Yeah, that after a while I go.
Go.
Wow. All right, now I'm hearing an echo of myself. Something changed in the settings.
Wait a minute. Let me check here. Hang on. Let's try it. Oh, that's only because of the other audio. Sorry, I forgot to put the echo cancellation on. My bad.
That's all right.
Okay, is that better?
Let me see. Not yet. No.
Wait for it.
Waiting for it.
Is that any better?
Hello.
No,
it's coming back to me.
Bugger all! Oh, for heaven's sake! See, this is the moment when fans of my will you stop it with the it's not boomeritis, Robert. Dad, blame you, son of a biscuity.
I only use StreamYard, and I don't know how to. So
that's
all you're. I don't know.
That's all I'm using right now. I promise that's all I'm using.
Yeah, there's two of me.
There's two.
Why do I have two of me?
No, there shouldn't be two of you now.
Well, there's two of my voice.
Well,
one is coming back.
What the flip? This is Harlow's fault. He's trying to get everybody to go over to his stream right now. I know what he's trying to do.
All right, let me just say I'll just try and talk through it. Here, I'll take one headphone off. My reaction to that reporter is that's all of them. That's what they do. They are only interested in curious things that push the narrative for Democrats.
Yeah.
Oh, Judy says you need to use the other window. That might work. Can you share it?
Hang on.
Maybe that'll stop. There. No. There.
Oh, son of a beat.
Which is weird. You're not acting. It's just me. All right. Well, you know, maybe this is just a sign. We should do part two at a different time.
I know. Something's got to give here at some point in this. Is any of that any better?
Let me see. Oh, you did it.
Oh, well, very good then. Okay.
Now we're back. All right. So that guy.
Wait a minute. Good night. You know how tech-averse I am. This means I love you, but this means what to me? I don't know. I'm from West Virginia. What do I know about this stuff?
Oh,
I have no idea.
I just push the buttons and go.
Yeah, exactly. I do
have
things.
no way to fix any of this stuff. All my streamer friends have like sound effects and mixing boards, and you would think with my background I would have one of these, but no, it's been too long and I don't remember how to use any of it. No.
I'm just good to know what the on button is like. It's like, okay, you know.
But
yeah, I mean, this guy is he's a piece of work.
He's pushing the narrative, and that's what they do. And if it doesn't push the narrative, they're not interested in it. And he got real uncomfortable there. That was very telling, you know. I mean, they will not dig into people that are on their side. And I will admit something. Early in my career as a conservative columnist, I wouldn't do that either. I would ignore stories of corruption on my side too, because I didn't give a shit about it. I didn't care because I was too busy looking at Democrats. It has only been in the last maybe 10 years that I started looking at Republicans and going, what the hell is wrong with these people? Why are they so bad at this?
Yeah.
Are they doing it on purpose? I'm willing to ignore the faults of people if they're good intention and they're making mistakes or whatever, or they don't mean to, or it's, you know, not harming anyone. But what I'm seeing in the Republican Party, especially in Missouri, oh God, don't get me started. There's the doorway to hell there. The Republican Party is full of the same corruption.
Oh yeah.
That's in the Democrat Party. And I've come to the conclusion that they're in it together. There's no other.
Oh, I agree with that.
You know, do you remember watching the Harlem Globetrotters?
Yeah, the Washington.
Well, there were the Washington Generals who played them, and their job was to lose. That was their job. They were never to win a game. That wasn't the point. That wasn't who they were. That they were the foil. They were the team that the Globetrotters would trounce.
Yeah.
That is the Republican Party when it comes to the Democrats. They are just a large show. It's a big game that's being played out in front of us, and it's the Democrats versus the Republicans, and the Republicans are the Washington Generals.
Yeah.
And I believe that they are paid to lose. I believe they're paid by lobbyists and, you know, big pharma and God knows who else to keep, and they'll do it because they don't really care who's in charge because they get paid either way.
Mitch McConnell, doesn't matter to him if he's majority or minority leader. He can take care of Kentucky. Doesn't matter because the way
is Mitch McConnell even alive? Is Mitch McConnell weekend at Bernie's at this point? Like, is he even close. There? He's like a walking zombie. This guy is like 180. Same with Dianne Feinstein. These people are like the Walking Dead. I can't even anymore with this. These people have been in power since my entire life, and I'm 47. And they were in office for 40 years before me. So can we even get out of this, Brian? Like, are we in? I feel like I'm living in a Twilight Zone, possibly like the Truman Show, where this is just a giant joke, and we're supposed to figure out that we're being had. You know, we're being All of us are being had. I can't be on a team anymore. I cannot be on a team. I'm not on a team. I'm on nobody's team. I'm not a Republican. I'm certainly not a Democrat. I'm not going to be, I'm not associating myself with anybody. I'm not on the right. I'm not on the left. I'm here in the middle going, I'm confused. I'm seriously confused because the people that I thought were on my side seem like some of the most evil people in the world to me now.
There's a lot. Have you ever seen the movie Spy Game? Robert Redford, Brad Pitt, early 2000s.
Oh God, but I don't remember any of the details. I know I've seen it.
There's a great scene where Robert Redford walks into his boss's office, and this is after they've determined that they can't get Brad Pitt out of the Chinese prison that he's currently captured in. And Redford, who'd been an old CIA operative in this film, he'd been there for like 30 years. He walks into his boss's office and says, Troy, do you remember when we could still tell the good guys from the bad guys? He said, all of this, he waves around the entire building of the CIA. He said, all of this was for something, right? And that's kind of where I am. It's like, on January 21st.
It makes me want to quit. It makes me want to completely retire. And I have to tell you, these last few months where I've just been waiting tables and not even looking at my phone, I don't even know what's going on currently in the news. Really, I don't. It makes me want to drop out. There's in Indian philosophy, Hindu philosophy, there's like stages of life. And I'm a Catholic, but I read about these things. And there's the stages of life, and there's like a circle of your different stations of life, right? India has like a caste system and stuff. And the first thing is they have like householders, and your job as a householder when you're young and having children, and that's what you do. And once you're finished with that, you go back to the forest and become a forest dweller and dwell on other things, on just being and being the wise man in the forest. And sometimes I think there's a lot of wisdom there, like there's a dropping out part that I think everyone, or people at least who are awake, we talk about being woke or awake, or the woke, the way we talk about it is like these people who are fake woke. But when you're awake, when you wake up to the show that's going, the big show, when you wake up to that, the only answer, I think, is to go back to the forest and stop and drop out, because nothing I do, if you're falling over a cliff, it doesn't do you any good to hold on to a rock that's falling with you. You're trying so hard. I've been trying so hard to change people's minds, change things, make things better. And this is futile. Everything is falling apart. It's the nature of this, whatever this is.
He hath shown thee, O man, that which is good, and what doth the Lord require of you, but that you love justice, honor, mercy, and walk humbly with your God. That's more, I am a lapsed Protestant, probably the best way to describe me. But I'm to the point, it's like, I'm going to, in my little corner of the world, I'm going to love my neighbor. I'm going to try and take care of my family members as much as I can. I'm going to try to be a good citizen in my neighborhood, in my street. I'll participate in the civic government. Yes, I'll try to stay abreast of what's going on in the world. But at some point, it's like I can only do what I can do. And if that's not going to change the world, I can't worry about it.
Well, and Tucker Carlson the other night, he had this great interview with, what's his name? The British guy that I like so much, Russell Brand.
Yeah.
And Russell was saying, you've been out of the game now. You've been off Fox News, and what have you been doing? And Tucker said, well, I'm getting lazy. I'm sleeping in and fishing a lot and eating long dinners, and my life is great. And then he says, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's what you should keep doing. Keep loving your family, keep dining with your wife, keep fishing. Stop this. I know that there are millions of people who they count on Tucker Carlson's point of view for something. And I think, stop it. Not that Tucker's not great. He's great. I love Tucker. I have nothing against Tucker. But not even Tucker Carlson with his millions of followers can stop this, what this thing that's coming. Okay. I know we all feel it. We're all like Sisyphus. We're trying to push this giant rock up the mountain. At some point, just let it fall. Let it fall. We're at that point, and I don't know what's next, but I do know that there has to be a shift in the way we see things.
Agree.
There has to be a shift, and we have to see past the veil. We have to see through it. There's a massive disinformation and misinformation campaign out there, and you're all caring about it way too much. I've been allowed a gift, I think, to with this pain situation, and having to quit, having to stop, that I've lost my ability to care about. And it's not that I don't care about what's happening to my country or my neighbors and my friends, or what will happen in the future to my children. But at some point, you have to let go of the idea that you can do anything to stop this. And Tucker goes, but then I have to remind myself that I feel I have a duty to stay in the fight.
Yeah.
And I would love to talk to him about this, because I want to convince him to drop out. I want to convince him to shrug. I want to convince him that Atlas needs a break. And like, the point is that once you do that, like if you've read Atlas Shrugged, I'm sure I have a giant copy sitting right here, always within reach. This is my copy of Atlas Shrugged right here. I've read it, oh God, I don't know, 6-7 times. There's so much in here. You have to read this 6 or 7 times to get it. But there's so much in here that what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
There's so much. Well, I think our answer is not in politics. Our answer is in philosophy. Our answer is in who are we? What are we? And what is our main purpose here? And if we do way too much of this inside our head stuff and being so involved in everything, I just think that we need to stop being involved in everything. Like quit, give up, go on strike. Because and I know that sounds really depressing. It's like, yeah, give up. It's all shit. But I think that there's a wisdom there, right? There's an entire philosophy based on giving up. Okay. And the giving up is not passive. It's not, okay, just kill me. The giving up is a strategy.
Yep.
And this is the thing that we're not doing, and we're allowing this to continue longer because we don't just give it up. We don't stop feeding into what this thing is. And I know I'm not explaining myself properly.
No. Here's the way I look at it. You want to really drive an authoritarian crazy? Just ignore them.
Yeah, stop caring about what they are doing. And I have a friend who's a good guy. Every time I see him, and like when I go to parties and stuff, or people come to my house, I never discuss politics. It's the last thing I want to do. I want to talk about your kids. I want to talk about your, what's going on in your world. And I want to have nothing to do with any of the craziness that I do for a living, because, I've come to the conclusion that it's all worthless. So I don't care to discuss it. And I never really have. I learned my lesson a long time ago. You really should follow the rules of etiquette, which are never discuss politics or religion in mixed company. You just don't. Well, I know this person who comes over, and every time I see him, he wants to talk about whatever latest thing he saw on Fox News.
Oh, no.
And I don't have the heart to say to him, you're wasting your life on this. You're wasting. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Fox, if you are a person who is relying on Fox News for your, to inform you about the world, you're falling into the deception. They are owned by the same company, by Vanguard and BlackRock, the same companies that own CNN and ESPN. They've set up this false fight for you, and you're falling for it. Nothing on Fox News is real, and nothing on CNN is real, and nothing on MSNBC. It's just set up so that we fight between each other, and we get into arguments. If we didn't have either of those, any of that, we probably would get along a lot better.
I've got a theory, and feel free to disagree with me if you wish. I am coming to the conclusion that we are at a unique point in history. I agree with you about geriatric politicians. I want a constitutional amendment. I want a constitutional amendment to age maximize it, not minimums, maximize it. In other words, you hit 70, you're retired. You cannot run for office again. I don't care,
Yeah,
president,
never.
senator. I don't,
No,
yeah,
it's a forced
yeah,
retirement, just like the
yeah,
retirement age
yeah,
when you get your Social Security check. It's 62
hmm
or whatever. Whatever the retirement age
yeah.
is for us, it should be the retirement age for them.
But my theory is this: we are at a unique point in history. I think we are at a generational sea change moment, which it's about to happen. Regardless of what happens in 2024 or 2028 or whatever, we're at that time. It's about to happen. But the funny thing that I'm noticing is that people who would never otherwise talk to each other because of whatever, either old hatreds or old whatevers, they've been propagandized to dislike each other, are now sitting down and having conversations, and all of a sudden they're looking at each other going, "Why didn't we do this sooner?"
Yeah, well, how do you
I,
think I feel about the meeting the Dearborn dads?
yeah,
I've been lied to for years about what American Muslims are like.
yeah,
They're not like anything that Fox News ever said. They're
yeah,
they're not there's no hatred there.
yeah,
There's distrust because the media planted it there. But there's
yeah,
no real hatred there for America. I met people who love this country,
yeah,
who were born here, who
yeah,
want to raise a family here, and all they want is just to be left alone to practice their religion. And isn't that what we're here for?
yeah,
Isn't that why we exist? So that we can all be left the fuck alone to practice our religion in peace.
mm-hmm, yeah,
That's what they want. I mean,
yeah,
obviously not every single person, but the idea that the media has really implanted this fear of between us.
yeah,
And I get shit from conservatives about this all the time. There are people who truly hate Muslim people on the
yeah,
right. They truly hate them.
yeah,
And the vitriol that I get when I have these people talk to me on my stream, and we agree on everything. We're super
yeah,
conservative.
yeah,
I get so much hatred towards my guests, and these really racist, awful things that they say. And I know that this was all fomented by the media. The media made people believe that they were in imminent danger of of being blown up by every Muslim they meet.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's really sad. And that was one of a real big waking up moment for me, was meeting these guys in Dearborn who were fighting against the same fight that we're fighting to
Mm-hmm,
get the porn out of the schools.
yeah,
We shouldn't have porn in schools, and Muslims are a great ally in that fight because they don't apologize
yeah,
for their religion. They don't apologize for their beliefs. And they're serious, and they have men who will stand up and say, you will go this far and no further. And
yeah.
my God, that's what we need. I'll tell you what, you will not find a more sincere group of American loving, freedom loving people than the dads in Dearborn.
Oh,
And I was
absolutely.
told by conservative media that Dearborn, Michigan was
New
a
Fallujah.
no-go zone. I
Mm-hmm.
have been invited to come and stay and experience Dearborn
Oh,
and
that's
what the
cool.
and Ramadan with these people. And I wish I had the budget to go and do it. I would have. Um, I, they give incredible amounts of money to charity through their events during Ramadan.
Sure.
They invite everybody. Everybody's welcome. I was told that Dearborn was a place that you can't even go if you're white. It's just not true. It's not true.
Yeah,
And so that's the kinds of things that I think conservative media is really bad at, by fomenting hatred and division between people. It isn't that there isn't a threat of Islamic terror, because obviously we've seen that. We've seen some attacks here. After 9/11, there were a few. There
mm-hmm,
was but God, for all we know, they could have been FBI guys. At this point, I don't believe anything. I don't believe
yeah,
anything the government has ever told me at this point. So now I'm questioning everything. I'm questioning, well, maybe maybe none of it happened.
yeah,
Maybe this was all CIA evil. The CIA is out of control. The FBI is out of control, and this is why I can't really, being a reporter these days, or doing conservative news is really difficult for me because I question everything. And I question everything everyone's telling me on both sides. So I tend to get my own stories. That's what I focus on. I focus on my own investigative work, things that I'm interested in, something that catches my eye. I will do my own digging. I will find my own sources and I'll report what I find. That does not mean I've never gotten it wrong. It doesn't mean I've never been fooled by somebody. Maybe I have. I don't know. I mean, it's a really difficult thing. I try my hardest to verify all my facts, but it's a really difficult thing to do these days in the age of misinformation. My God, maybe I have interviewed an FBI plant for all I know, who planted a story they wanted me to tell. I don't trust anything anymore. I trust very little. And so I do have to ask myself, like, where am I going with this? What am I doing? I've done a lot of work I'm really proud of with exposing family court corruption. I have a 29-part series on court corruption in Missouri and a few other states. It's probably the most comprehensive collection of court corruption stories that exists. I had 31 judges, an entire circuit court recused themselves because of reporting that I did. I had the chief judge, the chief judge in St. Louis resigned in disgrace because I caught him in ex parte communications and emails that I published between him and lawyers who were being sued in his own court, and him promising to help them against a litigant in his own court. I have had multiple guardians ad litem drop off cases when I exposed what they were doing to families and children in family court. And yet, Brian, and there have been a lot of people who I have exposed and they have lost their jobs or quit their jobs or ran screaming. There've been a lot of those. And even so, I haven't even made a dent. There's in the corruption. They don't even care. It doesn't even matter that I've exposed or other reporters have exposed it. It still goes on. The same people are still doing it. I get calls all the time. I can't keep doing this. All I get is PTSD and nothing changes.
Well, that sort of gets to something else. Did I hear the birds right that you have a new book coming out or a collection of something that's coming out this November?
Okay, no, not November. I I don't know when. I'm trying, but I can't do it right now because I can't sit in front of a computer. But I started putting together my articles on the court corruption. I do want to.
No. That's not what I'm
That
referring
wasn't
to.
it? Oh,
No,
well, what did
no.
you hear? I'm not
What
working.
what did I hear? I'll do you better than that. I'll show you what I heard. I heard about this. Is this you or is that the other? Is that the other fox?
Oh, that's not me.
Oh well, never mind then. Sorry about that.
What's that about?
I was gonna give you like this big.
What is that about? Who is that?
It says Megan Fox. I
wonder who that is.
I apologize because, bless my heart, I assumed it was you.
No.
Hang on a minute. Let me reduce this down with my cheap special effects so I can get this thing.
Oh wait, I think that's the other one.
Wicked humor through.
I think that might be the actress.
Oh,
yeah.
Rich.
Yeah, it is. It's her. It's coming out this November.
Sorry.
That's okay. It happens all the time. And I bet it happens to her too, which cracks me up. I guarantee you that at some point somebody has said to her, "Hey, I heard you wrote in this article on about Johnny Depp, on PJ Media." And she would have been like, "What? What? Who?" I'm sure that has happened to her.
This Robert, I will admit to. Yes, I boomered this moment. Yes, you can give me hell for it Saturday morning on my live stream, dude. So
I wish I was coming out with a new book, but I'm trying to put together a collection of the court corruption stories, and make that a book for people to, easily read through instead of, piecemeal. And I'm trying to put it together and how it happened and came to my attention. However, it's going to be a longer project because I can't dedicate a ton of time to being in front of a computer right now. Not until I, get a little bit better and get out of pain. I'm much better. I'm about 60% better. There was a time when I couldn't sit in this chair for this long without being in serious, severe pain. And I'm doing fine. Although it's funny, when I start talking about my struggle with this, my neck starts hurting. Like I definitely, there's a psychological component to the type of work that I have done for many, many years, and physical pain. There's a moment of there's a time, I guess, where when you do this kind of work, and let me tell you, Brian, I have walked into people's darkest moments. This is not
Sure.
the type of work that I do, and the journalism that I do centers mostly. You asked me earlier that I didn't respond about how does being a mother affect how you write or what you write about, and it absolutely does, because I care deeply about children and their safety. I'll never forget, after I had a baby, my first child, I was watching the news, and in Will County, Illinois, Riley Fox was a 4-year-old, no relation to me, who was brutally murdered. And I was holding my baby while I saw that news story, and tears were just falling down my face. And that had never happened to me before. It had never, ever happened. I'd heard stories of children being killed before, but before I had my own, it just didn't hit that hard. It just didn't, you just, the fear that overcomes you as a parent of, oh my God, now I'm responsible for this little life. And what would I do if this happened to me? And this happened to someone right down the street from me. It happened in the same county where I was. And that just hit so hard. And ever since I've had children, I feel deeply that the protection of children is something that adult human beings should care deeply about and should fight for. And when I hear these stories of injustice, I can't turn it away. I can't turn it down, and so I walk with people through their stories of child murder and abuse and the darkest stuff you can think of, child abuse and pedophilia and child pornography and these horrible things that happen to people in the family court system, and no one in authority who's supposed to help you helps. In fact, what they do is give your kid back to an abuser. I've gone through so many of these with people, and there is a thing, and it's not like, I guess it's sort of like survivor's guilt, like being in a crash, and someone else dies and you don't, and you're fine. I have this beautiful life, and none of this horrible stuff has ever happened to me, but I've experienced it through these other people, and I don't have to. I chose to. And at some point it just became too much. It just became too much for me. I felt like it was too dark to look at anymore. And I know police officers go through that, and sometimes first responders go through that, and I don't mean to be whining about it or anything, because I'm a very blessed person, but journalists who do this kind of work too, they go through that same thing. And I've talked to other people who do this work, and one of the reasons why you don't have a lot of mainstream coverage of family court disasters is because one local news station will pick up a story, and the reporters will work on it for a while, and they'll get so burned out and so demoralized, they never want to touch another one again. Yeah. And there's very few of us who continue to do it for any sustained period of time. And I know almost all of them. And we all almost have a support group, because it sounds crazy, I know, but at some point people ask me now, well, why aren't you doing any more of those? And it's I need a mental break. I need a mental break. I have a friend who's a documentarian. He makes movies, and he's one of the most zen guys I know. He does the same thing I do, but he turns it into movies, and he doesn't have this problem, and I don't know how. I need to learn from him. He always tells me, he says, you take these things, you internalize these things, and you make it's a burden on you, and you can't do that. I said, but what do you just not care? I don't know how I cry for my, I don't know what you call them, subjects. I mean,
Yeah.
client, I don't know what they're not clients. They don't pay me.
The subject of your writing.
The subject of my writing. I cry with them. I weep for them. Some of them have gone to jail falsely, been convicted falsely, and I've been in the courtroom and cried and I don't know how to let that go. And so it's like I have lived all these different lives with them and experienced their trauma through them. And I'm tired, Brian. I'm tired. And I am sick. I feel sick inside because this corruption isn't going to change. It's nothing I can do to fix it. I can't. I've tried my hardest. I've tried my best. I've put every bit of energy and creativity into it that I possibly could. And I've had some big wins, some great moments, but they're so few and far between that they do not override the dark shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It does feel like combat. It does. Good night, mister. It does.
Oh yeah. And honestly, and if you didn't have a heart, if you didn't feel, if you didn't cry, then you're in the wrong line of work as far as being a journalist. Because I mean, it's one thing to cover the world. It's another thing to understand what's going on in the world you're covering. And that's part of the joy of all your work down through the years. And you have made a difference. And granted, it's small victories. Sometimes it feels like it. But you know what? There's going to be people that watch this stream. Maybe they weren't able to be here tonight. They're going to be like, "Oh God, cool, Megan's on. I got to see what she's up to." And because you've with people who have followed your writing and followed your work over the years, you have made a difference. Have you changed the world? Are you the William Wilberforce of journalism in America? Well, no.
No.
But in your
well,
own
I'll tell
way,
you, there's been one time, Cindy Absug was just a case I covered, very extensively. She's the one who was imprisoned falsely and her child is taken away. She was accused of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which she doesn't have, and set up for a kidnapping plot, probably by FBI operatives. I can't prove it, but that's what I believe.
Sure.
In order to, in 2020, by the way, in order to sway and influence an election, to get headlines about QAnon mom and to spread this Q shit. This is she ended up in my inbox, and man, was that a deep story, and it still is, and I'm still in contact with her, and she's a good friend. And I she said to me recently, when I was telling her, I'm like, I've just not made any difference anywhere to anybody. None of this shit has mattered. And she said, well, you made a difference to me, because I don't think I could have gotten through it without you and our like little team of people who worked to help her. And I did feel like at that moment, it was like, well, that is worth it. Like even if that one person because I've seen people commit suicide in this process, people, Catherine Kasanoff, another one of my subjects of my articles that I wrote about a family court, she committed assisted suicide over it. And, this is a woman I spent hours on the phone with. And so I was talking to Cindy about that. And she said, well, I think I would have if I hadn't had you. And that's big. And that does mean something to me. And I'm thrilled that she was able to stay strong and get through it. And now we're on the upswing, she hasn't got her family back, but at least she's not in jail. And, the media's leaving her alone now, thank God. But that is something, and it is worthwhile, and it is meaningful. But it's just very hard. It's difficult. I sacrificed a lot of time with my own children to help other people's children. That's another thing I struggle with, is like, well, at some point, I'm very worried that my children will say, you spent more time on other people's children, with other people's children, and or worrying about other people's children. And, it's the guilt of the parent. The parenting guilt is always there. And I try to share it with them as much as I can about why I was doing it and what was happening. And of course, they, on a level, support that. But I'm sure that somewhere in there, they wish I wouldn't. They wish I would spend more time with them. And so that's part of, and now that I have a daughter who's going to be going to college next year, it's part of why I have to have to take a step back, because these are precious moments I'm not going to get back.
Exactly.
It's not coming back for me. And so, I still have a 9-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old that really could use more of my attention. So that's part of it.
Well, let me tell you, your 9-year-old is a precocious little fellow. I've never met him, but I've seen your Twitter
so
posts,
funny.
and I'm like, yeah,
He's
yeah,
hilarious.
I know. But no, I mean, granted, this is the first time you and I have ever talked. I mean, I've seen various live streams you've been on. I've read your work for years. I absolutely adore your writing and everything else about you. But no, if the day ever comes that you're like, why am I doing all this? What have I
Hmm.
done? What have I come? Come see me. Message me something. It's like, no, woman, you have made a difference for to one. If nothing else, to one person, you have made a difference. And daggone it, you ought to be reminded of that. So,
And, yeah, I mean, and I do need that reminder occasionally, but I also think that Hindu philosophy about the householder, the role of the householder, I am a
mhm,
householder right now, and I have these responsibilities in front of me that I need to concentrate on, because that won't always be the case.
yeah,
There will be another role later on, and I've spent a lot of time on this, and I'm almost at that same point where I was at WLS, where it's like I have done everything I can. I have tried everything I can, and the doors just keep slamming in my face. And and if I spend my energy continuing to bang my head against these doors, I am missing out on the things in my house, that and in my community and in my little life here. I'm missing out on those things. And those things are far more valuable right now. So I'm
agreed.
almost at that. I'm like going through this transition right now, and I don't know what is coming. I don't know if I'm going to be able to write again, and it's a weird thing. Um, it's a really weird thing, because I am a writer. That's what I do, and not being able to do it, even if that were to change and I would write something else and maybe try fiction or something else, entertainment. I've been thinking about writing my restaurant stories, but if I
Oh, that
can't,
absolutely has to happen.
I know, I know, I know. If I, but if I can't do it, if I'm
Yeah.
physically unable, I have to make a different life for myself and imagine something else.
Wait a
And
minute. I just thought of something. I just thought of a fantastic way to kill two birds with one stone for you.
yeah,
When your children are acting up and they're acting rambunctious, be like, well, I do need someone to dictate my columns and my books to.
I know
So,
I've had people say that. They're like, "That's what kids are for." But
yeah, it's
I
called
can't
slave labor. Put them
I
in there.
can't because so far I haven't been able to dictate a column. I've tried. It just doesn't work out very well.
No, but no. I mean, I mean, you know your life better than I ever will. We're sitting here for the first time talking to each other. I mean, do for you what you need to do. I mean, obviously, and be happy. I mean, you brought joy and happiness through your writing, and take if it's beneficial to your heart and soul to do what you need to do for yourself right now, do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I'm trying to like keep a sort of a presence online where I write a few columns a month that don't hurt me, and I focus more on entertainment currently, because there's always something there that's relevant, to the world in general. But I've lost I don't know. I've like lost the passion for it. I don't have it anymore. I'm questioning everything, and I need a break. I need a break. So
Well,
I'm
see,
taking a break, and it's been so far now. This is so funny. I was like 3 weeks into a job. I had another job, another waiting job over the summer, just to fill hours, because over the summer it's a little tough to get regular hours. So I was working another job at another place, and what happens to me, here I am, I came up with a great idea for a story, And this is what happens to me. No matter what I do, I'm always a journalist. I can't help myself. Like I fell into a situation where there's like a bartender at this place that I think she's stealing. And I'm seeing that from the bar owners, and their bar owner has this like really tragic story. And there's this drama going on over here and like that drama going on over there. And somebody might be stealing something. And like, that's just my Scooby sense, It's like, I'm over here just trying to roll silverware and get through the day, and I have to fall into a mystery.
Have you ever seen the movie Continental Divide? It was one
No.
of John Belushi's last movies. He plays, ironically enough, a reporter for the Chicago Sun-Times named Ernie Suchek. And he's hot on the trail of this alderman in Chicago. And it gets so bad, the alderman tries to have him beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so his editor's like, look, Ernie, I'm getting you out of town. So he sends him out to Colorado. He falls in love with this naturalist who's observing eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine John Belushi, Chicago-born, Chicago-bred boy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's trying to survive in the wilds. And these two, it's a love story. So he falls in love. But anyway, he comes back. He's moping around, and he writes this column that is just plaba. It's just awful for his character to write a column this sappy, this whatever. Well, it accidentally gets published.
Oh no!
So he goes to his local. John Belushi's character goes to his local newspaper stand on the corner of somewhere below some L in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "Hey, Suchek, great column, love that thing." Well, anyways, he's standing there talking. He's reading a few other items on the newspaper. Says, "Yeah, city worker dies on scaffold." And John Belushi's like, "What? What? Yeah, city worker dies on scaffold." It's a guy that Belushi's character had gotten information from. And when he heard what had happened, he went straight to the restaurant that this alderman hangs out in. And he says, there's no reason why Philip Johnson should have been on that scaffold because he was afraid of heights. And if I know it, damn sure the whole city of Chicago is going to know it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to own you. And that turned him around. And, I think
I can't help myself, but I want to stop.
Yeah, but you're gonna be like the female Ernie Suchek. You're sitting there rolling
silverware, and I fall into some murder mystery of some kind, and then I of course have to chase it because that's just what I do, and it's just who I am.
Yeah,
and it's weird.
Pen from behind your ear, and you're like,
I know. Oh, and I get my recorder out. I'm like constantly recording things. I mean, it's just who I am. But it's funny. I know you can't run from yourself, but there are times when one just needs a break, and I'm in that. I'm there right now. I'm not saying it's gone forever, but right now I'm tired, and I've got things to do with young children, and so I've just taken a lot of steps back. And after YouTube demonetized my channel, I was kind of like, well, it's like another sign. It's like that maybe I don't need to work this hard right now. Like I just don't. And I'm making so much more money at the restaurant than I have in writing for years, which is really sad. I mean, again, people care more about eating than they do about reading the
truth. Yeah.
Snarky column, and that's okay. It's honest work. And I love bringing people food and making them happy. And I love making money, believe me. And the stories, my God, that I've come up with. I mean, there's some stuff that are absolute laugh out loud, hilarious tales. Something I used to write when I was young, I used to keep journals. And when I was working in the city, one of my favorite things to do was on my lunch break or whatever, go somewhere where I could sit outside and bring my journal and write what I called creative nonfiction. And it's kind of like, I think if you've read David Sedaris writes creative nonfiction, stories about himself, stories about things that happen with his take. And I wrote a lot of that, and looking back on some of it, I have got books and books of this stuff. Some of it is really funny. some of it's really good, you know, and that's the sort of thing that I might be working towards to change, because this political stuff, I tell you, I know I'm interested in it, and a lot of people are interested in it, but it's a soul sucker.
There's
A
a reason
soul
Rona
sucker.
Barrett's been around as long as she has.
I don't know if I know her.
Oh, Rona's. I mean, I had one of those weirdly curious moments in my. Well, it happens usually every day at some point, but I was like, Rona Barrett is first, and then it went through my head. Is Rona even still alive? Rona's like a gossip columnist from like New York City. She's been around forever and is still alive, still doing her thing. Runs her own foundation, and used to write gossip and entertainment columns for newspapers in New York City back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if she's still writing a column, I have no idea. But I went, holy crap, that woman's still alive. That's good on her. I'm happy she's still alive. But it's like, this is a shock to the system. But no, I mean, look, it's like the boys and girls in the chat are saying. I mean, do for you what you need to do. It's going to be there. We're going to be here. We love you. We adore you. We don't, you're not. I know you. You're like me in certain respects. You're never going to quit. You're just going to find something else to do.
I'm just gonna find something else to do. It's true.
Exactly.
It's true. I just need a break. I'm just tired and worn out and burned out, and it just it's been a struggle. Big tech censorship has really worked on me. It's worked. It's made me want to quit. And I there's a part of me that thinks, well, then they win, but there's another part of me that's like, who cares? They're winning anyway. There's nothing you can do. They have the control button. They have the on-off switch. There's nothing I can do. You can't get a person. There's nothing. So why put all this energy into something that is completely out of my control when I have other things in my control? I have other things that I could put lots of energy into. Sometimes I think just deep cleaning my house would be more beneficial to me personally than any of this stuff.
I recommend, for me, go to my kitchen, put on some Motown music, and cook.
I love to cook too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not to make a big dinner, but give me a specialty item, and I can make a set of deviled eggs that just you will water your mouth just when you've had them once. That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Nice. I like somebody who can make a good deviled egg. I like deviled eggs. Those are good.
Oh, I go into almost like Dr. Frankenstein.
Do you put apple cider vinegar in your deviled eggs? Is the question.
Heavens no. Heavens no.
You don't use apple cider vinegar?
No.
I love a little ACV in my deviled eggs.
No. I mean, you want to know how easy it is to mix? No, I don't care. It's not like it's copyright or anything. The egg yolks, yellow mustard, mayonnaise, and pickle relish. That's it. That's all I need. And I guarantee you, I can put 5 pounds on people. I'll bring a mess of. I mean, literally, I have gone to Thanksgiving dinners with my family, and I wound up getting deviled egg duty because my sister was like, okay, Brian, it's time for you to. Okay, fine. I've literally had my nephew. I'll get there early. He'll be off somewhere else. He'll get there and go, where are the eggs? We haven't even sat down and had the meal yet. Where are the eggs? And I'm like,
it's good when you make something that everybody loves. In my case, it's an Italian pasta salad that's really different than any pasta salad you've probably ever had, because there's no dressing other than olive oil, garlic, sea salt, and lime juice. And it's incredible. And then it has all these vegetables chopped up and onions and stuff. And pasta is so dang good. But yeah, that's the thing everyone always asks for when I'm go anywhere. So I always just bring that.
Now with me in college football season, it's queso crack.
I think I've had this. Does this have meat in it?
Among other things.
Yeah. I think I've had that.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine about 10 or 12 years ago invited me to a Super Bowl party, and her friend was there making this stuff. And literally, it was so good, it never left the stove to get to the bowl. We're standing there with a bag of Tostitos scoop chips, and we're doing this number. And finally, I said, "Good God, this stuff is like crack." And that's what we started calling. We started calling it queso crack.
That's
You know
funny.
that. And a friend of mine got a hold of the recipe. She gave it to me. She's like, "I'll give this to you on one condition." I'm like, "Well," she's like, "you can never give this recipe to anyone else." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Because when I retire, I'm gonna find a bunch of Mexican and Hispanic restaurants down in Florida, and I'm gonna clean up on this." I'm like, "Fine, done." And we've had that arrangement for years.
There is a Mexican restaurant in Annapolis that has something very similar to that. I
Mm.
can't remember what they call it, but it is a queso dip and it has chorizo in it, and some other stuff. It's beautiful. It's so good. This is the kind of stuff that I do on Locals now. So my Locals channel has become. I've really wanted it. I wanted it to be a fun place where we just have fun because I needed more fun in my life, and
Absolutely.
less tragedy. And so I do cooking streams there at meganfox.locals.com, and I have a chef friend who teaches me things. Like he taught me how to debone a chicken on
Oh,
which was really funny. And he taught me how to butcher a chicken, and we did a bunch of them, and then we made a gumbo. He also
cool.
taught us how to save money with, buying a whole chicken and then just butchering it yourself so that you don't buy the separate pieces that are already cut. And that really has been a money saver for me. And I enjoy doing it. I enjoy getting that chicken and cutting it up and making different, a million different things with it, which is great. The gumbo is that we did gumbo one day together. So we watch movies together. We're watching And Just Like That, of course. And what did I do? Oh, and I do Tales from the Restaurant there as well, where I'm recording
Oh,
all my
cool.
tales from the restaurant, which hopefully I will put into a book someday. But Locals has become a really fun place for me where I feel less stress, and I love my little crowd over there. They're so loyal and fun and funny people who enjoy a good joke and a laugh, and we watch documentaries together. We love true crime. We're just trying to stay out of the fray. That's what I'm
And
doing
and
now.
and that is a good place to be. And I agree with you completely. Megan, this has been an absolute joy. You have got to come back sometime.
I'm sure it will.
Oh, you have to. I mean, like I said, if ever there's something burning in your soul and you're like, "God damn it, I need to talk to someone. What the hell's Trippett doing?" Like, I'm gonna message you. It's like, okay, come on. When you want to go, let's go.
Okay.
So, so where? All right, I'm running a crawler across the bottom of the screen, which obviously you're seeing, so everybody knows where to find you on Getter and Truth and
Although I'm
Twitter.
never on Getter or Truth, I'm on Twitter. That's where I
Okay.
am. I
All
mean,
right.
I have accounts on those things, but I don't post there. But I don't like. I've gotten rid of every social media except Twitter. Twitter's my favorite. I don't look at any of them anymore. Not Facebook, not Instagram, nothing. I just like Twitter
Understandably so. So
and
where
Locals.
there's locals, where else? I mean, yeah, we'll get into the discussion about YouTube and the jackasses that run it. But oh, I'm
Total
sorry, did I say that out loud?
jackassery.
Yes, complete jackassery.
YouTube is asshole, that's just what it is. But Locals is great. They've been so supportive. They're a company. You do get a person on the phone. It's incredible. Like I
Yeah.
have a dedicated helper who helps me on Locals. I can email him, I can text his phone at any time of night or day, and he responds. It's incredible.
Now that's
Um,
great.
yeah, they gave me a person. Like I don't even have that big of an account, and they have people who help content creators grow their channels, and they don't censor. It's terrific. So I'm really loving Locals. If you guys, you can follow me for free there too. It's not all paid. I do put free videos on there. We watched something the other night. I don't remember. Oh, the Johnny Depp documentary we were watching that I had on the free side. So it's not all behind a paywall. Just follow me over there, open an account, subscribe. If you don't have to subscribe, just follow me. And then you find out if it's something you like. And if you like it, it's like $5 a month. It's get rid of Disney Plus because Who the hell wants to support Disney? And they're like $15 a month. I'll save you
Oh.
$10 a month and give you better content.
That's right. That's right. Oh, for everybody who's been here, I mean, this has been an absolute joy. I am not going to lie. You have, like I said, you've still got to come back sometime. Hang on for a second. We'll say some proper goodbyes. For everybody who's still here right now, and he's probably still over there chit-chatting away. Go over to Mike Harlow. Tell him we said hello. Tell him that Front Porch sends his regards. And Megan, hang on for a second. We'll say some proper goodbyes. Everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. We're going to have some more videos out this week and my live stream this weekend, Front Porch Brunch. Love all of you guys. Thank you very much and have a wonderful night.